Greetings. What's happening, folks? What's up? What's up? What's up? Who we got here? We got Steven. We got Ben. We got Bobby. San Francisco, Seattle. Folks from all over the place. Up in Washington. I guess that's Washington State, not DC. We got Lord Horror in Amsterdam. What's up? Missed that place. We've got Teleman in San Diego. Excuse me. Excuse me. Good morning, you guys. Hope you're all well. What's going on this week? This week, I only put out one video on Monday for a Synergy module. It was the Deliverance, which was fun to do. But I would have liked to have some more videos up, but because I'm sort of scheduling them with other people and stuff, I was supposed to put up one on Friday and then it got delayed. So it's coming out now on Tuesday. And that'll be actually the first video that I've done for Guitar World. So I'm doing some demo videos for them where it's like on my channel, but it's in conjunction with Guitar World and products that they want me to review. So it's kind of fun, different thing. They'll push it out through their social media and all that, but it'll be on my channel still. So that'll be cool. It's for I don't see a reason why I shouldn't talk about it. I can. It's for a Tascam mixer interface recorder. And it was really fun because okay, so you can use the thing as a front end for Logic or for Pro Tools or anything like that. But it looks like an old Portastudio from the 80s, which I grew up using. So it was like, well, this is kind of cool. And it has actually a built-in integrated 12-track recorder. So without a computer or anything, you can record on this thing as you would on an old Portastudio. So when I plugged it in, I thought, okay, I'm going to make a video and I'll use this probably as an interface and I'll write a song and then record through this and stuff. And then I realized, no, it makes way more sense to just record into the thing and use it as a Portastudio for the video. And so I played a shaker track and a couple acoustic guitars, a few electric guitars and stuff. And then I mixed it all on the thing and bounced it out. And that's what you'll hear. And so that was really fun because it was kind of a, just a different type of product for me and a total throwback to working on those old machines. So it's called the Model 12. And it's a really neat little interface. If you need an interface it's got 8 mic pre's in it, but it's kind of like a 10 in or 12 in, depending on the way you look at it, and 10 out interface. And it's inexpensive. I mean, it's, well, relatively speaking, but for an interface that does that much stuff with 8 mic pre's and stuff, it's $5.99, I think. So kind of a unique way to go about it. You know, I could imagine if you're a guy in a band or something, and you've got maybe a 3-piece band or 4-piece band, you want to record band practices or do simple recordings of gigs, or you want to use it for, you know, kind of like writing on the fly at band rehearsals or something like that. It would be great. Or as a location kind of recorder, you know, to take if you do any kind of podcasting and stuff like that. It has a lot of features for that. Just a really good sounding EQ, 3-band EQ with a sweepable mid, and then a compressor on every channel. That's kind of cool. That actually is just a one knob thing. You just turn up and down, and it's simple, like kind of almost like that DBX over easy sort of sound or something. It's not DBX compression, but it's very simple to use. Is my point. Anyway, that was fun to do a simple kind of demo on it, and it sounds really good. I think, you know, just for what it is. So that'll be coming out, I think, Tuesday. And then on Monday, I'm putting out a different one for something that I can't mention, actually, because it's getting released on Monday. Well, it's a pedal. And that's fun. I'm actually really stoked with the song I came up with for it. So 2 videos will be coming out Monday, Tuesday, boom, boom, like that next week. And then I'll probably put out another one Friday. So I'll make up for my lack of stuff this week, next week. Yeah. What else we got here? McWalt says that he used to have the old Portastudio 4-track cassette recorder. Yeah, I mean, that's my earliest, you know, recordings was on these things. Christmas '84, Alex got his Porta 04. Yeah, they're pretty fun, right? I mean, you just hole up in your bedroom and record. I used to use them as well for practicing, because you could record they had 2 cassette speeds, 3 3/4 and 1 7/8 or something, right? Which was like the standard what a cassette would run at. But the fast speed, if you recorded something into it at that, and then you played it back, of course, it'd be half speed of 1 7/8 or whatever. So I could record a Van Halen solo or something into there, and then slow it down to half speed. And that's how I could remember working on. I remember working on things like there was a Paul Gilbert solo. Can't remember the name of it. Probably would have been 85 or 86 or something. But I remember recording the thing that sounds kind of like Pachelbel's Canon that he used to play. Anyway. Buzz Wilson says he's in the top chat. Thanks, man. Super chat he did. He says, I'm looking at getting an HSS and curious about split coil versus coil tap. Same thing, split coil and coil tap. Pros and cons and whatnot, if any weaknesses. What I do in my guitar is I use the bridge pickup in parallel instead of a split coil thing. I feel like if you've got a 14K bridge pickup, like quite a hot bridge pickup, like a JB or something, it'll split quite nicely, probably. But if it's humbuckers are just different than single coils no matter what, because they have a bar magnet usually on the bottom underneath the pole pieces, and the construction it's just like a different thing than a single coil, which has magnets for pole pieces and stuff. And so they're never sound exactly the same when split or anything like that. But it's, most single coils have the pole pieces with the magnets and stuff. But this is a different design. But I find anyways that with a PAF strength, so for my Thornbucker, at least in the bridge position, I find that I like the parallel sound to kind of do faux single coil stuff. But that's just me. You might find a humbucker that you like that splits well. There's even humbuckers that are designed to do that stuff, like the P Rails by Seymour Duncan, which is a kind of like 3 different pickups in one. It's designed to be like a P90 and something else and something else, humbucker, P90 and something else all in one, with it was actually like a rail coil, I think, and then a pole piece coil that looks like P90, and it's kind of a funny looking pickup. But that's what they designed it for, is to be a bunch of different things in one that splits well and all that. So that might be something to look at. Maybe they sound cool. I don't know. I know Ty Tabor used them for a while. But with my Thornbucker, because it's a standard sort of very vintage PAF style affair, I just go for the parallel in the bridge, and I find that balances with the singles quite well. Then Thornbucker, no matter what, balances. If you want to get a humbucker that balances well with singles, the Thornbucker or the Thornbucker Plus balances really, really well with single coils, no matter what. For an HSS style guitar, it's not as hot as many, even other PAF style pickups. When you put them in the bridge, they can be quite a bit louder than the single coils. So there you have it. Can you tell us your experience of selling gear online? Sure. I think Reverb's pretty good. I know people have been kind of upset lately because they upped their commission or the fee that they take. But I think that's probably pretty good. I think the gear page is probably a pretty good place to sell gear, because you have to be a member in order to list in the classifieds. There's sort of a built-in amount of scrutiny going on there, like where it seems like the only people that are members have been there for a while and have kind of a reputation. It's a smaller community than something like, Reverb or eBay or something, where you're open to the kind of whims of, the whole world. Reverb would be better. eBay would be my last choice. I had a bad experience on eBay with one person that bought something and then got it and then tried to say that it was damaged or not as advertised, which is total BS. So it was actually a guitar that was being sold for a friend, and it wasn't my eBay account. It was someone else's that we were selling it through. But so we're selling this guitar, and it was a brand new guitar. It was a horrible guitar. It was a Gibson. Remember the reverse flying V? So it was a backwards flying V. God. But anyway, somebody that we knew, my girlfriend at the time, she knew somebody that had won it in a contest. And this person knew that I knew about guitars or whatever. And they said, could you sell it? And I said, sure. So we used my girlfriend at the time, her eBay account. Well, we sold it to some guy, and the guy gets the guitar, and then he says, oh, the pickups are tarnished, and it's got a mark on it here and there. And I was like, this guy's a scam artist. He was saying, send me $100 and I won't, or $200 for the things that are wrong, and I won't, give you negative eBay feedback. So I think what he does is he buys things, scams people to, buys them at a fair rate, scams people to get some money back out of them, and then probably turns around and sells them out of his own eBay account for more. And that's how he makes money. So I was like, screw you, dude. Like, the guitar's brand new. I'm a guitar player, and I know about these things. And the guitar it still had the plastic on the pick guard and on the pickups and stuff, I think, from the factory. It was unplayed guitar, because who would want to play it? Reverse flying B. But I don't know. He obviously wasn't a guitar player. You could tell from the emails he was sending that he wasn't a guitar player, that he was just somebody that bought stuff and then sold it. So anyways, those kinds of things are maybe what you open yourself up to on eBay. With Reverb, I think, pretty good. You get the ratings on there. You can see the seller's ratings and all that. It's generally probably a pretty good way to do it. I feel the safest on the gear page, just because it's like, I've been a member there for a long time. People know who I am. If they're buying something from me, they're going to know who it is. And I've been a member for 20 years or something. So it's like, before anybody knew really who the hell I even was or whatever. So it's like not a I have no fear of selling things on there. I feel like it's going to be okay for the most part. And if somebody does have a legit issue with something, it's probably legit, So that's my favorite place. Is, I think you have to pay a certain amount, like maybe $50 a year or something, to be a member there. I can't remember. So you get different levels of membership, but if you pay, then you can post in the classified. So right there, you're going to weed out a lot of people because they're not going to pay to be a member. So, Mark says, thanks again for the Melissa Etheridge tickets. Hi, Mark. Man, it's been a minute. And nice to have you here. What else we got here? Steven says that Pasadena GC has an amp he would like to get to Dave Friedman for modding. What's the best and cheapest way to ship it to him? So are you not in the LA? I mean, if you're in the area, you could of course pick it up and just bring it to him. But if you want to ship it, FedEx Ground is the preferred way. FedEx Ground is the cheapest, as far as I've found, for shipping things. Selling and buying things is the theme for today. It was the unannounced theme, I guess. But yeah, Dave likes FedEx Ground. I guess you could buy it and probably pay them to ship it to him. That would be one way to go. What is it? Tell us. I know you probably don't want anybody else to jump on it, but are you experienced with the MS3 from Boss? Sorry, I'm just skipping around here. This is from Renan. I like it. I was actually thinking about getting one, building a little pedal board with one. I've got a small board that's like about yay big, and it would fit on it. And I thought I could get a little power supply. I have a power supply that's perfect for it here. I could add a couple pedals and have that thing. Because the reality is, when I plugged it in, this is the Boss MS3 switcher, and it's got a few loops in it. It's a simple like pedal board kind of switcher, but it'll also full complement of Boss effects in there. Delays and overdrives and EQs, modulations and everything. There's not a hell of a lot you would need. It's got all the standard Boss effects, which are quite good and serviceable for like having a little board or something to, you could use a 4-cable method or, be a nice little thing to have actually for, yeah. So I liked it. I thought it sounded good. I tried a few. I didn't plug it in and mess with it a lot, but I had one in here and I plugged it in and used it for, half an hour or something, ran through a bunch of the effects and tried it. I thought, I think sounds good. This is a no-brainer. Seems like a great, simple thing. So I could recommend it. Blake Hall says, when you say the gear page, are you talking about Facebook or is it its own thing? Blake, the gear page is it's an internet forum. Gearpage is it gearpage.net or org? I can't remember. It's not .com. I think it's .net. And it's a forum that's been around for a long time where people just gab about equipment. And there's also classifieds on there where you can sell stuff. And it's generally speaking kind of there's a lot of members. I mean, it's a couple 100,000 members at least, but it's generally speaking a very, there's a lot of still bickering and things that goes on, but it's quite well moderated. Maybe some would say maybe moderated too much. but I don't know how you get around that when there's so many trolls and stuff out there. So for the most part, it's actually really, really great in many ways. And it's kind of a more mature form, I would say. Like, I think the general audience there is a little bit older, the folks that use it. So it's got a level of, like I say, I'm not worried about selling things on the gear page. I feel pretty good about it. Yeah. And generally speaking, you can post a question up there and you get some good responses for, like, what pickup should I get for blah, 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 or whatever, the kind of questions that people would ask here. It's a good place to go post and ask questions. And, what do you guys think of this amp? Has anybody tried this boutique amp that I haven't been able to find? And people will give you responses and that kind of thing. Rory, what's up, dude? How are you? He says, he's up there in the top chat. Have you ever heard of Steve Rothery? I have not. I watched a Marillion concert on TV last night and he killed it. Used one Strat for the whole concert. I don't know him. I should watch his playing. That's a band I don't know very much about either. Know of the band, but don't know very much about them. Sorry. But thank you, man, for doing the top chat. How are you today? Over there, over the pond. I hope all's well. You just reminded me of something funny. I'll tell you a funny story. John says, Sir Pete Thorn signature reverse flying V. Chris Cornell always had a really, really good sense of humor. And he had this idea. He liked to pull pranks. And his idea of a prank would be he would be very serious about it. And he wouldn't let on that he was kidding, and he just found that really funny. And one prank that he wanted to pull was he thought, I want Gibson to make me a signature flying V acoustic. And it'd be like the stupidest looking guitar, but he's like, I'm not gonna, like, I'm completely serious, like, and make him think that I want it. So he told me that once. And then I think I went online and actually, like, I thought, I wonder if there is one, and I looked it up, and Dean had made one. And I was like, I'm sorry to bust your bubble here, dude, but there already exists. And he was like, oh, damn it, my idea taken from me already before it could even be hatched. Chris Post says he's getting a PT15 IR, but he's seeing similarities in the new G20. What are your thoughts? Is that the Rev? They're pretty different, dude. I mean, honestly, the Rev amp is a one-channel affair. That's kind of, a pedal amp, and I haven't tried it actually, but it's a different thing. In its, just take the IR portion out of it altogether. You're talking about a one-channel clean kind of pedal platform as opposed to a three-channel amp that has pretty monstrous Marshall tones on tap, as well as the clean channel. So I think that as an amp, it's more like comparing in head world, I don't know, but it'd be like comparing a Princeton or a Deluxe Reverb or something to a three-channel multi-channel amp that it's going to be a straight up kind of, so right there, that's the main difference. Now, as far as the IRs and stuff go, we've got, I think it does, the Rev maybe does 8 or so, or 5 or something. I can't remember how many IR, 6 or something. You tell me. But the reactive load built into the PT15, it's my favorite reactive load. So I'll just say that, where they've taken the Sir reactive load, which is I think the most accurate in the business, and been able to shrink it down, and which took a lot of engineering and stuff. So it's really excellent. And then you've also got 16 IRs built in. Not sure if the Rev has a headphone amp or not. We've got the headphone amp with the aux-in jack. So there's some other things and features and stuff, plus a true, properly buffered tube effects loop. All that stuff. Yeah. I mic'd up incidentally, for the Tascam video that's coming out Tuesday, I mic'd the PT15 just with a 57 for one part of the video. And you'll hear that when I'm showing off the effects in the unit, and it sounds amazing. I don't know what it was. I do know partially what it is I got my robotic mic mount in the other room, and I've got the 57 just in the perfect position right now. But when you hear it, it sounds, just for some reason, I'm just playing very simple off the cuff, chords and stuff like that. But like, here's the amp, now let's add some effects, and the tone of the amp in that portion of the video, it sounds so bitchin'. So I didn't spend any time on setting the amp either. Just however I had the crunch sound going on the amp, it just sounds really good. But Yeah. Richard Garcia says he's bought and sold stuff on the gear page this month. And he doesn't say anything negative or positive, but I assume that no news is good news, and then it worked out. Roberto says, what are your thoughts on the JCM 2000 versus 900? Well, I had a 2000 DSL 50 original back in the day, back around, 98, 99, 2000. And it was a good amp. The distortion channel was, the clean channel was really good in kind of a JCM 800 way. Could be clean or AC/DC-ish and sound really good. And it was good with pedals. And I used that amp a lot. And I also used it as a rental. So it was an amp that all backline companies had. So if I was going to do a gig somewhere and I needed to backline an amp, I would just put a DSL 50 or 100 on the rider. I liked it. The 900 seems a little more limited to me. In its scope, it seems more like a straight up dirty amp, whereas the 2000 had that channel that just struck me as being better at doing the kind of sparkly, like it was a little more versatile or something. I don't know. Never a 900 fan, really. Like 800s, even the 800s with the clean channel I kind of like. Never really a 900 fan. 2000s, pretty decent. Now, Dave Friedman does a mod on the 2000s where he can quite improve them, evidently. I know some people that have had it done and they like theirs. I think Billy Morrison, who plays with Billy Idol, plays rhythm guitar in Billy Idol's band. He had one done by him. And like it. Yeah. So check that out. Alrighty. What else we got here? Renan says, I'm a legend. I'm a legendary nerd. That's what I always say. Are you familiar with Colin Cripps, Canadian guitarist? Says Steve Berry. I am. I did a tour with Adam Cohen, another Canadian, in 97, 98. And we toured opening up for Jim Cuddy, who is obviously a founding member of Blue Rodeo, very well-known Canadian band. And Colin is also playing with Blue Rodeo now. Colin was playing guitar with Jim on that tour, and we became friends. He was a very nice guy. He's a great guitar player, and he's a vintage guitar nut. Terrific player and really new guitar tone. And I remember him giving me, very kind, gave me a rectifier tube for my top hat, King Royale, which is like a AC30 style top hat that I was touring with at the time. Had the stock, Silvtech rectifier in it, and he gave me a Mullard, like GZ34 or whatever the heck they're called, rectifier tube. Cheer, try this out. This can actually affect the sound. These are great, And he gave me this nice, a Mullard rectifier tube, so it was really nice. He was very cool. Nice guy. John Hutchison says, hey Pete, ever tried mid-side miking on an acoustic or amp? Not really. Add some nice natural room sound. I know the mid-side thing. I mean, I understand what it is, but it was always just a little bit above my pay grade as far as like doing it on my own. When I would like to give it a try. Mid-side is where you've got a microphone facing the guitar, and then you've got another microphone that's an Omni that's picking up from the sides like this. And you have the one facing the guitar and then the one getting the ambient sound, and you somehow use a mid-side decoder or whatever it's a way to get I think a fairly like cool sort of quasi-stereo image, but with a little bit of air around it that is also really phase accurate. To be honest, most of the time when I do acoustic guitar in here, I like to do it one mic. And the reason is because I find that stereo, I'll do XY too. Like I've occasionally done that. If you watch a couple of mic demos I've done for like small, like pencil style, I did one for some Sterling microphones and a few of these types of things. But generally speaking, I find it's hard when you're playing the guitar, listening on headphones, and getting the sound together, and you're hearing the guitar come out of the sound hole. There's a lot of experimentation that comes into play, trying to get, especially with stereo, like that. If there's someone in the booth and they're listening, in an isolated environment, they can set the microphones and check the phase and do all that stuff. And you it's cumbersome trying to do that if you're the player too. So I've got my favorite mic position on a guitar. I've been using this mic for acoustic, actually. This is my new Slate mic that's got all the modeling software with it. It's rad. It sounds great. This with the C12 model software that comes with it that you use in the computer after the fact. You apply it to the sound of this microphone, and then it takes on the sound of a C12, supposedly. It sounds great. I don't know how close it sounds to a C12. It just sounds really good. But anyways, AKG C12 classic mic that would cost you $10,000 for an original now or something, but this is a way to get that sound and come close without, it's modeling. But anyways, where was I? Oh yeah, so placing this microphone in the position that I really like, which I think I showed last time. I just did it actually, didn't I? No, I did it on the, if you want to hear me demonstrate it, I did it on the Luna. I was talking about Luna, the UAD DAW, and it's on their channel. So if you look for Pete Thorn, Universal Audio Luna, you'll find this video that I did, I guess it was 2 weeks ago now, almost. But anyways, I had this microphone working, and I said, well, why don't I just demonstrate where I place it at one point in the video on the acoustic guitar? So you could find that in that video. And I show them my favorite placement, which is just literally like just off where the neck meets the body and back about a foot from the guitar. And that's how I generally mic acoustic in here. And, rather than mic, I'm not really like a finger style virtuoso, like one part kind of player where beautiful stereo image would be completely appropriate. I'm more like my acoustic tracks are arpeggiating stuff, or I'm the strummer guy or whatever, and then when you're doing stuff like that, I find generally two guitars hard panned is a cooler way to go at the stereo thing anyway than one performance of, say, so. Most of the time when you see somebody miking a guitar in stereo, it's like a solo acoustic kind of thing where it's like a, I feel like anyway, like that's where it's a, like, you could do that on James Taylor or something and have a vocal mic up or something, and it would be really cool, or on a, Tommy Emmanuel or somebody like that, where it's, you've got this incredible sounding one guitar part. My scene isn't so much that, I guess. I wish I could do that. What else we got here? I'm gonna go back through the chat and see if I can find some other stuff. Cody says, do you remember any of Chris Cornell's vocal warm-up or regular exercises? He just used to sing songs. He'd sing in his dressing room, and he would warm up, generally speaking, pretty much every time. But yeah, he just grabbed the acoustic guitar and sing some tunes. Yeah. What else? Looking. Somebody's recommending a place called AGF as a good place to buy and sell acoustics. Nice folks. I don't know what that is. Interesting though. But for some reason, I can't move the chat back any further than a certain point. So you guys will have to ask me questions again. I can't go way back to 20 minutes ago, but I guess I should move down anyway. If I missed your question, please ask again. Okay. Mark says that he has a bunch of his stuff. God, my brain. At a local music store on consignment. Another way to sell. That is a pretty good way to sell. I feel like music stores take so much that you might as well just do it on Reverb at that point, and you'll probably sell it way faster. Yeah, you'll have to deal with shipping and stuff, but I guess it's cool, like a way to support local shops too. I feel like things can sit for a long time. If you've got something heavy like a Marshall cabinet or something, yeah, it makes sense to not have to ship it if you can take it somewhere and sell it on consignment or something. But the things used to sit, I used to consign things, they would sit for months, before you could ever move them. Whereas on something like Reverb, you can tend to move things quicker. You just pick the price that's the kind of in the lower end of what the item that you're selling is. If you want to, you're not trying to make the most money out of it, and you'll sell things pretty quick, generally speaking. So, and when you think about it, okay, so I don't know what they're taking, but they upped their rate, but it ain't what a music store charges. Like consignment at music stores they'll take 20 or 30% usually, right? Unless you buds or whatever, and they do you a good deal, but they got to make money too. So, yeah, I have mixed feelings about it. There's a great thing in LA called Techno Empire that'll hip you guys to. In Techno Empire, they take a fair amount. I think it's 30 or 40 even. I can't remember. But what they do is if you've got stuff that is just impossible to sell, let's say you got an old pedal board that's half torn apart. It's got a bunch of stuff stuck on it. And you're like, God, I want to sell all that stuff, but I do not want to deal with parting it out. They will take that thing, or let's say a rack full of like crap from the 80s or 90s or something. You're like, what am I going to do with this? Like, how am I going to sell each of these individual things? And that one's got a scratchy pot. I know it does. And what they'll do is they'll take that stuff off your hands, and then they'll take all the stuff out. They'll clean it all. They'll do minor repairs of things, scratchy pots and things, or, output jack. They'll check it all, and then they'll sell it all for you. And then they cut you a check. And so if you've got a rack full of crap, or you give them a box full of stuff, and just be like, here. I think they even picked up stuff for me from a storage space, like a whole bunch, like a rack and pedal board and like all this crap, and they'll sell it all. And then in 6 months, you'll get a check, and you'll just be like, oh, there's a check for $1,800 and they'll give you an invoice with all this stuff and list it all. It's a really cool service. Telecaster, Catherine Faulkner, Caster is up there. I am pronouncing it right. In the top chat, is it possible to get an edge of breakup at low volume on your Princeton with single coil, Strat or Tele or low output humbuckers? At low volume, no. It's pretty loud. I actually cut a solo yesterday using the Princeton. That sounded great on this pedal that I can't talk about. That video is coming out tomorrow, but you'll hear it if you want to hear it. But I wanted a different sound than what I was getting out of the heads that I have in here in the close back. I wanted more mids and kind of a rounder mid-centric, and the combo's great for that. Always just, if you need something that sits MIDI in the middle of a track, a combo will be, even something scooped a little more like a Princeton. But anyways, it was loud. You got to get it up. To get it up to edge of breakup, I've got it on 4. It was right on the, it'll break up on 4 or 5 with a, maybe single coils. Humbucker, it will for sure. But it's pretty loud. 10 watts, 10 tube watts is like pretty loud. At breakup, I find. It's not like a cranked Marshall kind of loud, but it's definitely got, if somebody's in the next room trying to watch TV, they're going to be yelling at you. Gabrielle 8NE says, I am in the process of temporarily relocating from Atlanta to the mountains up north. Can you suggest a specialized company that could safely move a few guitars and part of my studio equipment? In your area, I just don't know. I would probably contact local studios, there's a company called Rocket Cargo that's quite expensive, and that's what they do. They cargo gear all over the world, but I think that's more than you need. I would contact some local folks, honestly, that have music shops, recording studios, and say, let them know your needs and say, what you guys do for cartage. That's when you say the mountains up north, I wonder if you're still going to be in Georgia or if you're going really far. If it's a local drive kind of thing where it could be, if you were in LA, I'd be like, well, yeah, you use Mates, or you use, like all kinds of places I can think of that do cartage locally. Guys come with a panel truck and pick up your stuff, and they, if need be, they've got, some packing blankets and things like that. And, I'm not sure about Atlanta though, but I just don't know. You contact some folks in the music business out there, if you can think of anybody, like I say, local studios and things like that, and ask them about things like cartage, what they use. There's got to be some good studios in Atlanta still. I would hit them up and say, who do you guys use for cartage? Hope that's helpful. Nick Metcalf says, I need to attenuate a 66 Super Reverb. I have an Ironman, but I want to add an extra load box in parallel via extension jack for 2 ohms. Does it matter what box I use, or do I need another Ironman? 2-note Captor 4, I think you're saying. It's probably okay to put in parallel with that. It's a 2 ohm amp. You're going to have a kind of an ohms mismatch situation going on. You've got the Iron Man in parallel. This is really a question for somebody like Friedman. Because I don't know what happens once you've got a load. You're getting into like it's a 2 ohm amp. I don't know, dude. You got to ask Dave. Ask Dave at racksystems@yahoo.com and see if he could recommend something. He's gonna hate me for referring questions to him. No, he's not. But you could ask him, and I'm sure he would get back to you. You know, you're gonna want to have a, you know, it's a little odd with the 2 ohm, you know, and then 2 loads. You know, it's gonna be the same as if you were running the internal speakers as well as an extension cabinet off. The Super has an extension jack, right? It's going to be the same. Whatever you would do, you're going to want to get, you know, the appropriate loads for ohmage wise, you know, for that amp. And it's a little weird at 2 ohms. I start to lose my perspective. I wish I could help you further, but hit up racksystems@yahoo.com. I guess I could ask. Let me send a text. I'll try and help you out here. Okay. If somebody is using an attenuator on a super reverb and then they want to run a load in parallel on the other output jack dash, what kind of impedance do they need for both of these devices? Let's see if we can get a response to that. Okay, what else we got here? Kind of move down in the chat. Thanks for doing the top chat, you guys, and I'll see if I can help. I will. That's right. Pete Way passed away this week. UFO. Sad. Rest in peace, Pete Way. It's the sad news for the week. From all accounts, he was a very nice guy that I've heard. I never met him, but I heard he was a good dude. Yeah. Sad. Brett is thinking about selling some gear and buying a PT-15. You should do it. I support your decision. I'm biased, though. Okay. Greetings from Venezuela. What's up, man? Mr. Marquez down there in Venezuela. He says, hope you're doing great during these strange times. I'm okay, man. I hope you're okay down there. You guys were in a tough time before all this happened, so I hope you're okay. What is your opinion on the new generation of active guitar pickups, like Fishman ones? I tried some of the fluence pickups. I thought they sounded pretty cool. They are quiet, which was one of the things that I was interested in trying to see, like about because they're an active kind of thing, and I thought they sounded cool. I'm not sure even the model in the guitar that I tried, but I don't know. I've heard some people say that they really like them. I think Steve Stevens tried them and told me that he liked them. It's different. So, kind of interesting. I kind of want to get some active pickups for like 1 or 2. I'd love to have an active EMG set just for the 80s kind of thing in a Strat. And I'd also love to have like some EMG high output, completely different than what I normally go for in my Explorer is what I was thinking. So I have an Explorer, and I'd love to just James Hetfield it out, and just have like a metal guitar for like active pickups. Nothing for crunch tones. Full distortion guitar or James Hetfield style, completely clean sounds. Might be fun to have in one guitar. So, what's your final opinion on the Apex you demoed? You're talking about the, that's Bobby, talking about the 808 pedal, right? I did a video for this Apex 808 pedal. I think it sounds great. I put up a video of it on Instagram. It's like my latest post on Instagram. And a lot of people were like, damn, that sounds good. Like, what is that tone, And a lot of it's just that pedal. It's a really, really good 808. In retrospect, when you don't think about it much and then you just throw the video up on Instagram and you get a bunch of people responding back about the tone, that's a pretty good gauge. Get away from it for a minute and then, what do you think of this? And then people are like, wow, that sounds great. Well, there you go, I think it's a really good 808. Has less of that clean over dirty thing or dirty over clean thing that a lot of TS9s have. Okay, I'm getting a response back here from Mr. Sir. The problem is a super is 2 ohms. This is about the super reverb and using a load. But just impedance-wise, what are we looking at? Like if you were to run 2 cabinets on a super, let's say the internal speakers and an external cabinet as well, Dash, what would you want the impedance of each cabinet to be? Get a little more clarity here. Just the ideal situation. How come you need a load though on the other? I don't understand the application really, because you already got an attenuator and you want to attenuate more. I don't get it. Like why you want to run a load in parallel if you've already got an Iron Man on the amp. Just check. And for those that don't know, if you take a reactive load or any kind of load really, and you run it on an amp that has 2 speaker jacks, you can do this with the PT15, by the way, built into the amp. But you can reduce the volume of the amplifier by 3 or 4 dB or something like that, kind of like the first click on an attenuator, by running a load in parallel on the other speaker jack. So let's say you've got a Marshall and it's got 2 speaker jacks. All you need to do is plug a reactive load into one of the speaker jacks in your cabinet into the other jack, and what'll happen is the volume will go down in the cabinet, because it's kind of like splitting the signal now between 2 cabinets, except one of them ain't a cabinet, it's a load. So it's a way to drop the volume. So if you have a reactive load and you don't know that, you can actually use it as a parallel attenuation device with a cabinet and take the edge off your amp. It's kind of like you can take the volume of a 100-watt Marshall down to say what would be like a 50-watt Marshall, just drop it a few dB by plugging in. And we have that built in on the PT15. So if you use one of the speaker jacks, the one with the red band around it on a PT15, you get the full output, 15 watts of the amplifier. If you use the other jack, it puts the load, the internal load, in parallel with your cabinet. And now it's kind of like you've halved the power of the amp almost. You can think of it as, like a 7-watt amp at that point or something. So it's just a cool option. It's like a built-in one-step attenuator. So this fella's like asking, he's got a super and then he's got an Iron Man that he wants to run to attenuate the volume of the amp in between the amp and the speaker, but then he's asking about putting another load in parallel as well, kind of at the same time. So I'm just not understanding why. I guess you couldn't just bring the attenuator down one more click, because it's going to kind of achieve the same thing. Something like an Iron Man will take you all the way down to load, anywhere from full volume down to, so anyways. Okay, moving down in the chat, Scott S says, "Hey Pete, using an amplifier in your DAW and just found that the ribbon and condenser mic settings for the cab, sims. What ratio of," sorry, I'm just looking at something here, I got distracted. What ratio of ribbon to mic do you find used mostly? Thanks in advance. Generally speaking, I find that I mix the ribbon in. So, sometimes I'll use a ribbon only. So it just depends is the answer. 9 times out of 10, if I'm looking for a rock guitar tone where I'm primarily using the 57, but I want to get a bit of the ribbon character, I just blend the ribbon in a little bit. It's, 8 dB or 10 dB under the 57. You're predominantly hearing the 57, and I just pull the ribbon in until I hear a little bit of that fatness come in from the ribbon mic. And that's how I'll use it, just a bit of that smooth ribbon character. Because otherwise, one thing about that you're going to find with ribbons, generally speaking, for the optimum tone I find out of a ribbon mic, especially if I was going to use it as the only microphone in the amp, it sounds better pulled back. But then you can't blend it with another mic, because something like a 57 generally wants to be up close, within an inch or 2 at the most of the amp. Ribbons can sound great 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches back from an amp. They give you this very natural sound. And of course, they've got proximity effects. So the closer that you get to the amplifier with the ribbon, the more bass, and kind of it gives you that, you know, I always find with a ribbon close on an amp that if I was going to use it loud, close, I want to EQ it going to tape, going to the computer or whatever. So that's the dilemma. So that's why, generally speaking, I find I'll just blend it in a little bit, because on its own, it's got this woolly kind of darkish character because it's real close up to the amp. If you pull it back and put it dead center on the speaker, it's like, oh, there, now it's a very natural sound. I'm going to miss a top chat here, so maybe I'll just come back to that in a minute. Nick says running just the Iron Man sounds good. I guess I'm just worried about pushing the transformer too hard since the Iron Man is running at 4 ohms. No, dude, you're cool. Don't worry about it. You're fine. Running the 4 ohm with, I think just about everybody I know that are like I think you might ask Friedman or somebody, and you might ask Sir. They would probably, John would tell you to be a little more careful. Dave would tell you, don't worry about it. Just telling those two guys. But I think that you're okay. I'll just do one more little. Is running a 4 ohm load with a super okay? Question mark. I know it's a mismatch, but probably will be fine even if you push the amp. We'll get the answer back. Brendan Mowat Smith says, never got to say thanks for answering my drum programming question back in 2011. Wow, that's a long time ago. I'm better at it now than I was then. I wonder if I can provide any additional information. Do you have a preference between the UAD Studio or Ampex for tape sim and mastering? Well, the Ampex is more a, like I'll use the Studer generally speaking on each individual channel or on the buses, and then the Ampex is the more like the 2-inch, or sorry, the half-inch 2-track, you know, thing. So I generally don't use the Ampex on individual tracks, but I'll use it on you know, and I haven't used the Ampex a lot from UA, to be honest. I'll tend to use the not that there's anything wrong with it, but there's more controls and I'm worrying about screwing up the sound with it more. I tend to use the Slate one on the master bus quite a bit because I know exactly what it sounds like. I've used it a lot and I feel like it's hard to screw up as long as you don't clip and push the meters up too high. It's kind of it does 30 IPS and 15 and 2 different tape formulations and all that, but I'll generally use the 456 style tape formulation, usually at 15 IPS, because it gives that slightly roll off. If I ever do a demo or something and I feel like it's a little too edgy or something, a little too digital, or like there's just something, then yeah, I'll put that on the bus and it just will tend to glue everything and just add a little thickness to the sound in kind of a cool way. So I'll use that, but then I'll use the Studer quite a bit. Now that I'm using Luna, I'm using the Studer on everything, every track, just kind of the stock 456 at +6 setting. And it's awesome, as well as the Neve summing. And I'll probably start messing with the Ampex on the 2-track, you know. Chris on the master bus a little bit more, get a little more familiar with it. Chris Quinn is also up there in the top super duper chat, and he says, what are your thoughts on the tone of a Floyd Rose? I just got a Hamer Phantom with a Floyd, and it has an articulate sound I didn't expect. That's interesting. 83 Kramer Pesa Carrera on the way. Pickup preference. Those are great guitars. I had one. I don't know if it was a Carrera or not, but it had the original, it was a 1 pickup pacer that had a 3-way switch. You could do series humbucking, parallel, or split coil on the guitar. And it had a hockey stick Kramer headstock. It was kind of a weird transition one because most of those had the headstock that kind of looks like the Sir one, really. But I think it was still pre-Beretta, you know. 1 pickup Floyd, friggin' cool guitar, man. I'm really sad that I ever sold that guitar, to be honest. It was really cool. And my dad got it for me when we were on vacation in California, not far from where I sit right now. It was at the Sherman Oaks Guitar Center. And so, I don't know, the guitar had the sentimental value. I was so stoked that my pop bought me this guitar, and it was a Blueburst Kramer Pacer. It was really cool. I wish I had that guitar. Anyways, enjoy your new guitar. And I think a Floyd can sound really, yeah, on certain guitars, articulate. Sure. I mean, they can sound a little less like they have less bass or something, but maybe that's one man's less bass is another man's articulate. Because sometimes that's a good thing, depending on the whole rest of your rig, right? So I've got, these are the guitars that I grew up loving when I was a kid. Like you're saying a Hamer Phantom, and these are the 80s guitars that I grew up. I had a Hamer Chaparral. You remember those? Now it drove me crazy. I kind of liked it, but it was a Gibson scale guitar, mahogany. Oh, that's interesting. It's actually mahogany body and mahogany neck, so it was kind of Gibson style. I forgot that. I think it was a mahogany neck. Maybe it was a maple neck glued into a mahogany body, but it was 24 3/4 scale, and I had a Floyd, 2 singles, and a humbucker. Kind of a wacky guitar with the boomerang inlays. Anybody remember those? Super 80s, and it was fuchsia. I mean, it was like this, but hot pink mixed. Ugh. Anyway, problem I had with that guitar, with the height of the strings off the body, off of that particular Hamer, it was almost like a Gibson, like a Tune-o-matic height. They built it like almost like Les Paul style construction or something, but on a super Strat. So the bridge, the Floyd had this much gap under the bridge. It was floating super high. I couldn't pick, man. And I remember being really frustrated at band practice trying to do some technical stuff because I was like, I can't. When I was trying to play fast on the low, the E string or the A string, it was like my hand was like, it was like trying to do it on a Les Paul. And I would grow up on Strats with had the arm contour, but it was just weird. Anyways, sorry. I'll go on and on and on. But I've got a soft spot for all these guitars, because they're like, I was crazy about them when I was a kid. So I had Jacksons and Charvels and Kramers and Hamers, and I was really into all that stuff before I ever owned a Les Paul. I had all that stuff. Got my Germino Club 40 a few years ago for a great price on the gear page. Leroy's giving props to the gear page. It worked out great. Yeah, I think it's a good place to buy and sell stuff, especially kind of expensive stuff like that, like boutique amps. Good way to do it. I think that's where I got my old. I think that Marshall. I think I got off a guy in the gear page, but I'm forgetting. Maybe it was Reverb. I just don't remember, but it might have been in a gear page ad. And, good deal, no problems. Everything was great. I think it was the gear page where I found that. Eric says that he thinks the 900 sounds like an 800 with nice mods. That's from a long time. Should move down in the chat, but we were talking about 900s versus 2000s and stuff. A lot of, a 900, a lot of people have great. I mean, I know Keith Scott from Bryan Adams used those as a live amp for decades, I think. I mean, they were reliable. You can find them anywhere. Sound good. You still have a Negs in your arsenal? Richard's asking. I have my Steve Stevens, yeah, and I used it not too long ago in a video, and quite enjoyed it. It's one of my hot guitars, hot, like when I consider like a hot humbucker kind of guitar. It's my hot rod Les Paul. Have you tried the new American Original series by Fender? I have not really. That's Renato. I haven't been to a music store in months, just because of the whole thing. I just haven't been in a Guitar Center or anything since. I don't know. It's been 5-6 months, I guess. Pete, your pickup signature are too hot or medium in the stack. I'm thinking to buy one for my gear. Too hot or medium. That's DJ Morales. Sorry, I don't quite understand, but no, my pickups are a vintage output, so they're not hot. They're generally speaking, is fairly low output humbuckers. Is why they'll balance well with singles. Yeah. Moving down. What do I think of the DSL series from Marshall? Well, I was just talking about that. That's Levi. I haven't really messed with any of the new ones. The only DSLs that I have experience with are the old ones, but I assume they're using similar circuits. I remember the original DSL 40. The only thing about that amp was it got really hot. There was problems with like a thermal basis with those things, but they sounded good. I liked the DSL 40 when it came out. It sounded really cool back in the late 90s. I'm assuming the new ones are similar and just probably to fix that stuff. I know they're made offshore now. It's whatever, it's like they still sound good and good designs and all that. You know, decent. The DSL 50 was the amp that I had, and I thought it was a pretty good amp for the money. You know, good working amp. You know, similar in the way that I think a PV Classic 50 is a good amp. You know, great pedal amp, basic, good, solid 410 situations. I had a Classic 30 I didn't really like. It always sounded really MIDI to me. I could never get a tone I liked out of it. Classic 20, on the other hand, want a cool sleeper amp, a little PV Classic 20. Holy sheep shit, those things sound good, man. The lead tone on those in the 90s, I can remember playing through, and God, it sounded cool, glorious. You know, like the opposite of what, you know, any of the little Fenders, you know, little Fenders, they have like whatever, Blues DeVille or you know, Blues Junior or whatever. They're pretty cool and do the Fendery thing, but a PV Classic 20 was like a little fire breathing Marshall-y kind of tone. Really cool lead sound. Great. What's a good resource for learning to program drums, says Kyle? Well, you know, to be honest, I don't do a hell of a lot of drum programming per se. I use the tune track stuff. If you want to do some programmed drums and you want to, you know, not spend a lot of time and get some great sounds, the tune track stuff is great because there's so many built-in grooves and all that you can simply, you know, load up an instance of Easy Drummer, or Superior Drummer is more complex, but easy. Let's start with Easy Drummer, you know, and then you do the tap define thing. I've talked about this. If you watch my the video I did on Luna, not the one that's on the UA channel, but the same week I put out one saying I took the Luna challenge. It's on my channel. You can see how I use Easy Drummer and Superior Drummer, and how I tap in grooves and then come up with a whole bunch of grooves, and then I can assemble them into a song really quickly. That's kind of the way I work now. I mean, if you're talking about going in and programming every single hit, that's just kind of an antiquated way of doing things. I don't know that anybody's really doing that anymore. With the new, so many of the new drum plugins make it so much easier for you to find the right kind of groove and then just tweak. So once you have the right grooves in your DAW or whatever, you're lining them all up and putting them together, and then you want to, I want the certain fill. Then it's about going in and moving things on the grid to get a certain fill. Yeah, you can do that. And a good rule of thumb, just my like lesson number one is, I remember Jennifer Batten saying a little while ago, like, you can't hit all the drums at the same time. Like a real drummer wouldn't do that. So for example, if you're doing a flam on the snare, blapping, blapping, you know, don't have a cymbal going at the same time, because the drummer needs both hands to do the Dave Grohl. Right? So snare kick, right? With both hands, and then you slightly offset the snares, you know, so that they're, you know, so one can be right on the grid, and then you take the other one and you make it a little late, and then you get the of both of the hits of the two sticks, you know. So little things like that. When you're doing that, do not have any cymbals going. So if you got a hi-hat pattern going, right, and the drummer is blapping, oops. Mute the cymbal. Don't mute, but don't just, sometimes what I'll do to get a realistic, if I'm doing that kind of thing and it's a hi-hat pattern, the drummer would tend to get, you know, kind of like open up the hi-hat a little bit towards the end of that phrase, right? So move from a closed hi-hat to a slightly louder open hi-hat, and then let the open hi-hat ring and do the fill with no other cymbal going on, and then probably crash on one. So it's learning to think like a drummer a little bit, watching drummers and learning, you know, how they do certain fills and stuff like that. And then you can get some more realistic. That's the most important thing, is to understand from a musical level, musical perspective, as sort of your base ground, you know, starting point, what a drummer plays. And then, you know, then you can kind of move from there, you know. And for your song, recognizing what a drummer would do for, like, if you've got a certain guitar part, okay, well, what would the bass play now? And then what would the drums, how would the drums and the bass work with what the guitar is doing? Because they're probably going to, if it's rock and roll, they're probably going to like lock up on the kick, the bass and the, you know, are going to lock up a lot on the kick. And then the guitar is going to do something slightly different on top, but they're still going to lock at times. That's what I find. Listen to AC/DC for that stuff, you know, like for the ultimate, like how to make a riff powerful. I was talking about this with somebody the other day, you know, a drummer, about kick patterns, saying like, they were asking for some advice on if they're playing the right part on the song, and I was like, your kick isn't really supporting what the, it's really close, but you got to do with your kick. You got to do the rock and roll thing. You have to support what the guitars and bass are doing. Maybe not all the time, but it's an art. When to add. You can't like rock and roll is simple, but it's not easy in that sense, I guess. You're working as a unit to support you want everybody in the crowd to be going like this, and there's a way to do that, so it's a little bit of an intangible. But anyways, I honestly, for drums, I would recommend checking out the Tune Track stuff. I think they've got it. There's other great drum programs. I still use Stephen Slate drums and different things, but as far as like having a library of grooves that's just killer and stuff right out of the gate, Easy Drummer, start there. I got it and I loved it. I mean, I was already using Slate and different other programs, and then I got Easy Drummer, and it was like, it really is so easy, but it sounds so good. It's so simple, and there's a lot of great, man, they got huge libraries of like, I bought the alt rock library and the dream pop library, a whole bunch of different kits and grooves that you can get where you'll pay, anywhere from, $30 to $75 or something. And they'll give you, an additional 10 kits and 500 MIDI grooves download, and you can kind of supplement. A while ago, I was doing a blues demo and I needed a good shuffle, and I didn't have a shuffle. Like, I couldn't find a MIDI shuffle groove in my whole library anywhere. So I went and found blues library, at Tune Track, and sure enough, there was a drummer that played all these great grooves, MIDI grooves. And I went and downloaded them all, and I did the demo that day, and had this, there's my groove. It's kind of fun in a way. You can go and I don't know. I find for like my writing, if you can't get together with a drummer, having the next best thing is having cool, well played grooves, a big library of them that you can go and reference, so that if you want to do something in 7/8, or you want to do a shuffle, or you want to do something in 3/4, or whatever, you've got grooves that you can go reference right away. Sitting there and programming on the grid and coming up with drum beats, to me, it takes the fun out of it, Stephen Douglas says that he bought a Strymon Timeline from the Gear Page a few years ago at a killer price and had absolutely no problems. I thought it was going to be a disaster at the price I got it for. That's interesting. Yeah, generally speaking, solid place to buy and sell gear for sure. Once again, okay, moving down. Logic Drummer's fabulous. Yeah, Logic Drummer's pretty cool too. And if you've got Logic, it's free, right? I mean, even if you've got a Mac, you've got GarageBand. Isn't there some kind of built-in drummer in that? There probably is, right? It's free that you could get started with. Gary's in Scotland. He's having a beer and a single malt chaser. Dude, get down with your bad self. Have fun over there. I was just in Scotland. Had fun. Man, it was cold, but it was beautiful. I was there twice in the last year. I was there for clinic last fall, and then again for shows in Edinburgh and Glasgow in February, I guess. It was fun. I had a good time. Okay, what else we got here? Tips for getting into jazz playing. Geez, man, I don't know. That's Jacob Allen. Let me know if you figure it out. No, honestly, there's got to be some great beginner kind of courses out there. Most of the stuff I should actually investigate. Like, that'd be a fun thing, to just get into some beginner jazz. That's the whole thing. I always feel like it's like above my head, and it scares me. I kind of like it in a way. I like having styles of guitar I don't really know that much about, and it being a little bit of a mystery still to me. Things like flamenco and jazz. There's two that I just don't understand at all. So, yeah. Is Leo here from Frog Leap? What's up, dude? My God, how are you? I miss you. Everybody knows Frog Leap Studios, right? Leo's fantastic videos. I hope you're well too, man. How's your new studio? Leo built a beautiful new studio. I hope it's going good. That you're doing well over there. Hope to get to Norway one of these days again, man. I miss that part of the world. Finland and Norway and Sweden and all these fantastic countries. I miss them. I do. I'd love to tour through there again someday. Anyways, man, great to hear from you. I'm glad you are here. Todd Roy says, thank you for telling for guitarists to think as a drummer, because as a drummer, I hear so many program songs these days by guitar players, and it's so overcrowded with hits and very busy sounding. Yeah, I mean, drummers only got 4 limbs, right? So if you want your drums to sound really realistic, you got to think like a drummer. That's right. It's true. You know, like Jennifer Batten says, you don't hit all the drums all the time. You know, so, something really as simple as not hitting the cymbals when you're doing a fill is so important, you know. Motown kits, says Prince Westerberg. I'm sure there are some. I don't have a there's some Motown sort of sounding drums that and parts and things and grooves that come in Easy Drummer and Superior Drummer. So, but there's definitely probably supplemental stuff. You can go to tunetrack.com and look at their website and see all the different kits. I mean, there's everything from country to alternative rock to folk, you know, like, you know, more like, you know, stripped down, sort of more dead sounding stuff, all the way through to full on metal and prog. There's tons of different kits. It's really fun. Chris says Easy and Superior Drummer are really easy to use. I agree. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. All right. What else we got here? Cornell Radu says, have you tried the Virgil Alro PAF humbuckers? I have not. I haven't heard of those. Scott says, back in the mid-90s, I learned a bunch of drum parts by ear and programmed them into an Elisa SR16. That's cool. I remember SR16. They sounded pretty good. Anybody know that song by Collective Soul? What was the big Collective Soul hit? Was it called Shine? Was that their big breakout hit? That is an Elisa SR16 drum machine on there. And if you didn't know that, go back and listen to it, and you'll be like, oh my God, it sounds like kind of the silliest programmed drum part, but it was this great big radio rock hit. And the story is kind of interesting. The band was a band. I think they were from Atlanta or somewhere out in those parts. And they had been a band, and then they disbanded because it wasn't getting anywhere or something like that. And the singer thought, I'll try and get a publishing deal and just write songs for people. And he wrote that song and then submitted it to somewhere. I don't know. It found its way into the hands of a DJ. And the DJ thought, this song's great. And he started playing it on the radio. And it started getting tons of requests. And it just blew up into this big organic hit, radio hit. And all of a sudden, the guy's like, well, now I got to put the band back together because now I've got a hit as a band. And that's how Collective Soul actually ended up reforming and starting. This is the story as I understand it. It was kind of interesting. He was doing a songwriting demo basically, and that's I don't know if they went over and remixed it for a single mix or something, but it's the Elisa SR16 drum machine. And if you listen, he's not the greatest drum programmer. If you listen to the hi-hat pattern in the verse, it's hilarious. It sounds like that he programmed it in kind of 5 minutes. It's a great song, but it's like, you know, when you listen to the drums, it always cracks me up. I was thinking, I wonder if the drummer like had to learn that exact pattern. Then it's kind of this very like stiff, you know, not what a drummer would play, I don't think. But so yeah, check out that song by Collective Soul. I think it's called Shine. Wasn't that the song? Anyways, kind of funny. I like the story. I love the story that you know, organically, I love it when a DJ. I mean, it's like it reminds me of something that would have happened in the '60s or something. DJ picks up on a tune and plays it, and it becomes a big hit, and then the band becomes famous. It's a good story. Metalhead Hippie wants to know, are me and Britt ever going to do a jam together? Probably. I'm sure we will again. Did you see the song we did with Tony Cornell for it's all over it's on this video on YouTube and all that. She did a great job on that, playing with her blast sticks. We did a version of Black by Pearl Jam for Lollapalooza 2020, which was, of course, a virtual online event. What are your thoughts on that famous Swedish Boss HM2 sound used by death metal bands? Have you heard of this before? No, but I know the pedal very well. Is that right? Was that the way that they achieved that tone? Was the Dupree guitar? Of course, I remember that pedal well. It was actually great on bass. My friend Jurgen, who plays in Government Mule, that is his distortion on bass, the HM2. And he gets great sounds. He does things with a volume pedal and a reverb swelling into the HM2 that sound like absolutely evil. It's super cool. So I had one, I think, when they came out. I seem to remember I had one. It was the late 80s or something when that pedal came out, I think. Yeah. There's a fella here, MMEIERS Yard 1 something or other, says he's got a 50-watt JVM. Are you familiar? 50 watt, the JVM, wasn't it a 60? Or no, that was a TSL and DSL, TSL. JVM, wasn't that the one with KT66s? I played through one once. I think Paul Gilbert endorsed them for a little while. Pretty cool sounding amp, as I remember. I tried one once. Thought it was cool, actually. Sounded like a Marshall. I liked it. Hey, Pete, have you played through a Hook Wizard yet? No. Those amps, they're, it's probably kind of a slightly bit of an unobtainium in the United States. I've never seen one. I know that they're from Netherlands, right? So I don't know. I've never seen one over here, but I mean, I'm sure there's a few people that probably bought them in the States. I'm not sure. Let's see here. You guys are talking about tone woods. A little bit. Okay, Matthew Kennedy's up in the top chat. I'm going to get to that. A lot of my pro work has been as a touring tech, but I'm a player first, and my goal is to be a sideman. I don't want to quit teching completely, but I'm afraid I'll get pigeonholed as a tech. Any tips? There is that fear. I almost teched once in the 90s. Before I ever did a touring gig, I was offered a potential gig as a tech with Sheryl Crow, actually, to go out on the road and tech. And I think that can happen where you get pigeonholed. Although, look at Billy Howerdel from Perfect Circle. He was a tech. He teched for Trent Reznor and others. And he's just, the thing with Billy is he's kind of a genius. I mean, he's a great guitar player and he writes great songs. He's a great guy too. Such a nice guy. But I love that guy. He's kind of local, and I see him sometimes. He's a really terrific guy, Billy Howerdel, and I love Perfect Circle. Great songs. If you haven't watched, you should go back and watch some of the performances of Perfect Circle that they did on like Leno, like on the Tonight Show. They're flawless. God, they sound good live. What a band! I mean, and Josh Freese, of course, did the first record. Anyways, my point. He transitioned from tech into full-on artist, but he, I don't know that he ever was a sideman as a guitar player. He just, started writing songs and stuff and got Maynard interested. Probably, I wonder how he met Maynard, but he probably toured, with Nine Inch Nails and maybe Tool or something. I'm sure they were in the same camp, same circles, and then maybe he somehow, they realized that he's a pretty brilliant songwriter and stuff in his own right and guitar player, but. Not a lot of people maybe know this, but Billy Howerdel, his main Les Paul throughout all that time doing the Perfect Circle and stuff was a Trent Reznor smashed guitar that had the headstock broke off. And, Trent they'd buy these Les Paul studios and things, and then Trent would trash them. And Billy would just put them back together. And so he had repaired one of them with a headstock from another Les Paul. And that's his main guitar. He built this guitar back to, glued the headstock back on somehow, put it all back together and put Tom Anderson pickups in it. Kind of a very unique guitar. And that became his main guitar. Kind of wild. Piecing together a broken Les Paul that Trent, broken Les Pauls that Trent had smashed on tour. Cool guitar story, I think. But I think that you just have to, as with anything, you have to commit. If you take more tours teching, which is, how can you not? Because it's like, if you can get one, it's like, it's work. But if you can somehow, but I'll give you an example. Most of the people that I know that are successful studio players in LA made a commitment at some point to staying in Los Angeles and not going on the road as a sideman and cultivating relationships as a studio player. Because when you get a call, if you're like, sorry, I'm out on the road, I can't do the session, they're going to move on to the next person, and that person's it's going to be Tim Pierce, and he's going to get the call because he gets all the calls. No, but you know what I mean? Tim actually in the 80s decided, I'm not going to go out on tour anymore. He did a couple tours. He did like playing with Rick Springfield and stuff, and then he decided, I don't want to do this. I want to play on records. I want to be creative and be home and be in the studio and come up with things. That's where I feel like my heart lies. And so he did it, and you have to kind of cultivate it and not, you can get an offer for even pretty big tour, and you got to be willing to not do it. I'm getting a text back about the super thing. The official word is yes, it's fine. So if you've got a 2 ohm super and you run the Ironman, it's set at 4 ohms, you're cool. Don't worry about your output transformer on your amp. I've run a basement. I've got my old basement and I've run it for years. It's 4 ohms into an 8 ohm load. And yes, it'll seem to, I think it clips a little bit earlier and stuff like, you don't have quite the headroom, but no problems with that basement. That basement's like a tank. Those Fenders, you don't hear about failures, output transformers that much with Fenders. They're pretty robust. I think more like Marshalls and stuff would seem to have issues, but Fenders, they're pretty solid. Anyways, Matthew, yeah, I think it's just a matter of cultivating relationships and trying to get in that world, and try and get it your first gig as put the word out, put the feelers out. If people know you as a sideman, if they know you can play, let's say, and you're in that world, I mean, I'm sure you got some friends in that world. As with anything, you could say, hey, I'm looking for, I kind of, want to tour, like as a sideman. Let some of your friends know that you've toured with, and just say, give me a shot. If there's an audition or something, I'd love to do it. Put out the feelers with all your touring, because if you've toured as a tech, you've probably got a pretty good, Rolodex of folks that, any of you kids know what a Rolodex is? You know what I'm saying? You got some relationships out there that you can kind of cultivate. Just put the word out and then be ready for. Part of the problem is when an audition comes up, it's the same thing as a studio gig or word of a touring gig. It can be very last minute. And then if you're out on the road already touring with somebody as a tech, you'll miss it. So these things happen. Didn't James Brown design the PV Classic series? I feel good. Not that James Brown. James Brown, who also designed the 5150 and is now working for Fender EVH, actually is the head designer, I think, over there. I believe he did have a lot to do with the PV Classic series. Yeah, I believe he was the designer. I think you're right. Not 100% sure, but pretty sure. Yeah. What else we got here? What's your opinion on Blackstar amps? I was thinking of getting one, but opinion seems to be very mixed. I have played through very few. I think I played through one at a jam once at the Whiskey. And I had my little Blackstar Fly 3. And that was cool. It's a little battery-powered one. Highly recommended for hotel rooms and things like that. I first learned about it from seeing Phil X on Instagram playing through one in hotel rooms. And he's like, by the way, I'm playing through this thing. And showed it. I thought, I got to check that out. And I went and bought one that day. I was in Japan on tour. I bought one from a local guitar store in Shibuya for $75 or so, thereabouts, equivalent in yen. Yeah. There's 433 people online. Nice to have all you folks. Thanks for being here. Let's see. Hi, Pete. Did you notice a difference from the Source Audio EQ2 versus an analog EQ, like from MXR? I would say there's a little difference. That's Jerry. The Source Audio gear has a sort of a unique Source Audio sound. And I don't know how to describe it, but if you've tried their multi-wave distortion, when I used the EQ2, it reminded me a little bit, even though it's a completely different pedal. I don't know if it's conversion or what it is, but, and it's not a bad thing or anything like that. It's just a distinct sound. Whereas an analog EQ, yeah, something like the MXR is just kind of a straight up, we're talking about two very different devices. Something like an analog 10 band from MXR is a very simple pedal. Whereas the Source Audio, it's got all the programmability and you can use it like a wah and there's all this stuff going on. So very different. Sound, though, there is a little distinct signature. Everything has a sound, I think, So I guess you just have to try it. But Dan of New Jersey says, why do you believe in tone wood for electric? Because I can hear it with my own ears, when I go from one guitar to another that are all other things equal. So if you want to know, I did a video. I'll find it so that you can check it out. I did a video Let's see, Pete Thorn, sir. That's it. Still Pete T. Classic. Yes. I'm going to find this video for you on YouTube. There it is. And I'm going to post it in the chat. There it is. You guys can listen. Maybe bookmark this or open it up in another window and take a listen. This is a video that I did. You can see it. See the, you guys see that? There's the link right there if you want to bookmark it or whatever. This is a video I did for Vintage King. They asked me to review a couple different Suhr guitars. They were, or show, play them and show the differences. So it's two different basically identical Suhr Classic Ts and two different identical S's. The only difference between the guitars is one has with the T, one's got a alder body and rosewood fingerboard, and then one's got a swamp ash body and a maple fingerboard. With the S, same thing: alder body, rosewood fingerboard, and swamp ash body, maple fingerboard. And you can listen to the guitars. I compare them and I play the exact same thing. And if you're into, this sort of thing, you'll know that it's exactly what you think. The swamp ash has a slightly scooped mids, slightly more extended top end, kind of springy thing going on, whereas the alder body with the rosewood board is more sort of mid-centric and a little bit more maybe even, less scooped. And you hear it on both guitars clear as a bell. So watch that video and tell me if you don't hear the difference. And that's why I believe in Tonewood, because you can hear it with your own ears. I love testing things, empirical, evidence, like evidence-based, like, are they really different? Is Tonewood a thing? Oh, yes, it is, because you just listen with your ears and you try it. In order to do this, though, you need two identical guitars, electronics-wise, and then you need the different wood, like the guitars with the different wood. And I had the luxury of that, I guess, with both an S style and a T style. And I made a video. John Turner is up there in the top chat, and he says, I often wondered why electric guitar demos never start with just listening to the guitar acoustically, not plugged in. When I buy a guitar, I start quiet, just playing acoustically. It's true. It would be a difficult thing to show. I mean, in a video, maybe. I mean, I guess I could use a really good microphone reference that, I've got my Earthworks mics here. I guess I could try showing that. But anyways, John Suhr's got some great perspective on this stuff. I should have him on again. If he was here, I could ask him instead of just asking him in text. But he's got some great perspective on things like Tonewood and why it really matters. He's a pretty scientific guy, and he walks around. He's showing me tapping, listening to the tone, why some wood is dead and others is, he's not a guy that believes in pseudoscience, so anyways, yeah. What else have we got here? What else have we got? I just saw the Classic Rock Show, bro. You nailed it. Thanks, says Dropfoot. Thank you. Yeah, it's up on Patreon now. You can watch the whole show, actually. I don't even think I've seen the whole thing all the way through, but it's a fun show, that's for sure. We did a lot of fun rock and roll tunes. I had a great time playing all that music. Tor says, what's the best way to practice scales and modes? I don't know if there's a best. I mean, I would say to time, to a metronome, and maybe I can give you some alternative things. I thought it was interesting recently on Andre Neary's Instagram. He had a little short lesson about practicing up one string, which I think is really valid. I think that you can play up and down one string, and then he shows playing up and down two strings, and then up and down. So take the first string, right? And I remember Joe Satriani talking about doing this too in a lesson. I thought it was a cool idea, like where you just improvise on one string, and then improvise on two strings, take the first and second string, then improvise on three strings. Or, in my mind, you could do it just using the first string, then the second string, then the third string, and just, get used, et cetera, et cetera. playing up and down that way without, it breaks you out of a box and gets you more into the tone of less of like a box pattern and more of these are the notes in the scale. These are the intervals. You know, this one's a half step, and then you get a whole step, and then you get a whole step, and you get like that, right? For whatever you're playing over. So put on like when I see like Neil Schoen on Instagram, he's got you know, a great Instagram where he's constantly playing, just jamming over stuff, and you know, put on progressions and then play. And when you watch him play, that's kind of the way to do it, I think. Like to just improvise over top of as kind of a static chord, or maybe a couple chords where there's not too much going on, and then you get used to the sound of the scale, you know. But maybe doing that just conceptually, just thinking about the thing I was just talking about, where yeah, you could work on a pattern and a position, but then know that that's not this. A lot of people think like, oh, this is this mode, and it's like has something to do with the box shape. No, it's just a sequence of notes, and you can play it up one string. It has nothing to do with the shape. So it's important to recognize that, I think. You know, anything you can do to get away from that playing shapes. We all do it. I mean, at times, you know, it's like, oh, this is a comfortable shape to play on. But thinking from a musical perspective, once you play up one string, you're just thinking about intervals, and I find then you're just hearing the notes more. You can't play as fast because you can't go across the, you know. So you're like more like thinking melodically and intervallically than you are, you know. And and then having said that, you know, playing arpeggios over top of a chord, a static chord or something, a progression, you know, a jam track or something, and just playing arpeggios so you can see the target notes more. That is really great to, you know, within a mode or a scale practice or whatever, to just play an arpeggio in all the positions and kind of see where all the target notes are up all the way. Then you know where your licks can, if you want to resolve them, you know. So that's some stuff that you can do. Phil is up there in the super duper chat. He says, did you ever go for sushi? I totally went for sushi. I had sushi last night, and it was good. Phil says, by the way, saw the rock show. You blew the doors off that thing. Wow. Thanks, man. Super fun. How can you not have fun playing all that music? Both of you guys saw it, and that's awesome. And I did go. I totally went for sushi. I had great sushi last night, and I enjoy it. I enjoy it. Evan Ward says, them's fighting words. What did I say? William says that he's recommending getting a looper. Him and Ethan Ricks are talking. He's saying his lead playing improved exponentially once I got a looper. Yeah, sure, you can play in a chord progression and then jam on top of it. You know, there's some great jam tracks out there too. My friend Quist, he has got a great jam track YouTube channel, you know, where he does all these great tracks and you can play over them. You know, any tips on incorporating your pinky and ring finger into your playing and scales? Because it seems like my fingers can't do this. Well, I think you just kind of have to focus on it, honestly. No substitute for, you know, just the hard work of the practice, I think. So anything you can do to, you know, I mean, I remember this Vinnie Moore video where he would do this type of like, right? Like hammering on between the first and second finger, and then second and third finger, and then, right? Now it's just the third and fourth, right? And I guess you could do that between the first and the fourth, or the, you know, second and the fourth. You know, like that, and hammering on maybe pull-offs. That's using the second and fourth, like really unnatural, you know. You'd never do that. But trying to build up the strength of that fourth finger, maybe something you could do during watching TV, just trill with a metronome. Have the metronome, you know, just do that for a while, you know. My pinky ain't that strong, man. You know, do that to a metronome though, and I'm sure, you know, you'll build it over time. What else we got up here in the top chat? A bunch of you guys all of a sudden. Jose says, Friedman BEOD, Egnet or Goldsmith or Silversmith, same type of pedal or different? Pretty similar. The BEOD is maybe a little higher gain. The Goldsmith, like when I think of the Silversmith, it's the lowest gain. I think the Goldsmith is medium, and it would be pretty martially. Good sounding pedals though. And then the BEOD is more like in the medium to high gain kind of, but yeah, all kind of martially, you know, Wampler Pinnacle, Sir Riot, you know, similar. Great though, you know. Those Egnator pedals are cool. They're a little underrated. They came out, and I don't know that I don't know. I've seen them on pedal boards. It's like they're really good. I did demos for all of them, so check out my demos. I've done demos for all of these pedals that you mentioned. I think I did the Silversmith too. Matt Lipschultz is up there in the top chat. How are you, my friend? He says, I think sushi may be the best post-gig meal. It's late, so you don't want something too heavy. I totally agree, but you definitely want something. Recent sushi convert. Hashtag recent sushi convert. Yeah, it's great post-gig. And this is the kind of stuff that, you know, in a city like Tokyo was easy to do. You know, you could go and I had my joint that I would go that was open until 5 in the morning, I think, or something. And then they closed for a couple hours and open again. But it was fantastic in Shibuya. Late night sushi, you know, post anything, post bar, post gig, post dinner, go for sushi again. Why not? I actually cut back on sushi a lot. I don't eat now. I used to eat a ton 10, 15 years ago. It was just a problem. And I've been eating, especially with, you know, COVID whole thing, just eating home a lot and doing my own thing more. Spending less money eating out actually has been pretty good. Not such a bad thing, I think. Let's see. Hey, Pete, that red HSS Sir Strat, any plans for you and John to make that a production piece? So, not exactly. There's things that I want to do, but I think I would take some things from this guitar and then do, you know, some other things and do. So there's you know, I'm thinking about things, but I love this guitar. It's a great guitar. I mean, you could get a guitar like this if you wanted to order one from them, you know, custom order. It's super cool. I think the neck on this guitar would be thin for a lot of people. That would be my worry. You know, it's like a copy of my old Jackson. I've talked about it before. My old Charvel neck from the 80s. I just worry about that. And so there's other, you know, even for me, it's a little thin. So I love this guitar and I play it all the time actually, but it is it's on the thin side. And I think I've even gravitated towards, and John nailed it. He did a great job on it. He gave me exactly what I asked for. And then I realized that it's like, wow, it is a little thin, but terrific guitar. And I don't want to change a thing on it. I can take each guitar kind of as they come, you know, use them for different things. But yeah, there's stuff in the works. Chris Post says that I know it's not Gear Talk, but the band In Excess was such a big influence for me songwriting. I think you grew up in the same era. I loved In Excess, man. I saw them live on I think it was the Kick tour. It was great. I don't hear you talk about them. Yeah, a really great band. I mean, that music sounds timeless to me. You know, like it's got a timeless quality to it. The production even, and it's 80s, but Need You Tonight, I don't know, man. That's just good, cool sounding music. Like, you know, I don't know. I really like them too. I felt like they were kind of like almost like on the level of, you know, U2 or something like that in the day. And then of course Michael, you know, passed away, and that was that, you know. But I feel like that they were really exceptional band, to be honest. I feel the same way. Really terrific. Great playing, great sounds. I think Clear Mountain mixed that Kick record, I think, which is you know, people don't talk about that much. It's sonically an incredible sounding record. Any thoughts on Dan Huff? Ever worked with him? I haven't. I was aware of him back in the Giant days, and then I knew, you know, he went to Nashville and became a, you know, it's probably a good, like, really brilliant move at the time because he was in Giant and they were kind of like doing the hair metal era almost or something. And then he went out there and started doing country and doing, you know, it was the right time to go do that thing for him. So I'd say, you know, obviously great guitar player, producer, songwriter, and also brilliant strategist. Talking Heads was one of my favorite bands at that time, says William. I loved all that stuff, man. I mean, I've got just as much affinity almost for like the Pretenders as I do for well, maybe not just as much, but you know, when it comes to Van Halen and bands like that. I was a rock kid, but I really appreciated The Cure and, you know, I don't know, the Psychedelic Furs and, you know, like a lot of the music that was made then to me sounded like a lot of the production. If you listen to Psychedelic Furs production or In Excess, you know, whatever was going on in the hair metal world was sort of goofy production wise, in my opinion. When I listen back to it, it sounds quite dated with the sounds and things of a lot of those records, especially the drums and stuff. But the sounds of the drums on, you know, listen to the drums on Pretty in Pink. It sounds amazing, you know. The drums on the whole NXS record, you know. God, you know, yeah. Go back and listen to Pretty in Pink. What a good sounding track that is, man. Oh my God, it sounds good. I want to be in a band, just sing like that, like all low. I don't even want to play guitar. I just want to be like the singer. Just, you know, wear like a cool suit or something. I could pull that off. Just forget about the guitar. I'll just go and do that. Flock of Seagulls, says Brian. I was never like a big Flock of Seagulls. XTC, David. Now we're talking. You know, I listened to a lot of Oranges and Lemons and Skylarking. Oh God, my ear just did that thing where it like shuts off for a minute and rings. God, I hate that. It'll come back in like 3 seconds here. Oh. God, I hate that feeling. It's like you're like temporarily deaf for just a second. Such a strange feeling. Do you use guitar polish? If so, what kind? I got this stuff from what's it called? What was it? Dan Irwin's place. Oh God, I can't remember the name of it right now. I'm forgetting. Dan Irwin, you know, and they've got a, you know, online resource. God, my ear is like weird right now. Tripping out. I got some stuff that's good for, I can't remember the name of it, I'm sorry, but it's good for lacquer finishes from them. That's quite good. So I would recommend, if you've got lacquer, you need something kind of special. Otherwise, you can get away with a lot of stuff. Right now, what do I have sitting here? I've got some Dunlop stuff. I've got this Diodario spray cleaner. This seems okay on poly finishes. You can get away with a lot on poly, you know. That doesn't seem like as necessary to kind of have a really specific kind. I used to like the GHS guitar gloss quite a bit back in the day. That stuff was pretty good. Kind of, you know, you squirted it on, it came out like it wasn't a spray. It was more like something you'd have to wipe on with a cloth, like a wax almost, a little bit like thin, you know, and then it would wipe off, and that stuff worked great. So GHS guitar gloss, I quite like that. But use fast fret. I don't, but I don't mind that stuff actually sometimes, especially in hot climates where it gets, you know, the neck can get sticky and stuff. I on a general basis, I don't use it, but there's been times like in Japan where it's like I went and seeked some of that out because it was so hot and humid at the gigs, and the strings would get really sticky and terrible feeling. Steven's recommending Lemon Pledge. I don't know about that, but on a guitar, I haven't used it, but yeah, I generally speaking, the guitar gloss, that Diodario stuff, that's what I've got now. And Stu Mac Preservation Polish, Charles is recommending. Yeah, anything coming from Stu Mac that says it's safe on lacquer, I'm sure you can trust, you know, because they're pretty good. Dan Irwin, Stuart McDonald, that was the place I was trying to think of. Thanks. My go-to cleaner and polish is Martin, very good. Have not had luck with the Dunlop 65. The Dunlop stuff seems to work good on my Surs. I mean, but there's such a you know, the finishes on my Surs are mostly poly, like on the same sugar guitar and stuff. And man, are they tough! God, a Sur finish is tough. That's amazing, really. Like, I grabbed my my red signature guitar. Like, this guitar has seen quite a bit of play. And if I can show you, like, see if I can catch the light. I mean, the back, the scratch plate on the back, the tremolo cover, you can kind of see some marks on from my belt in the light. See them? like just a little bit. See those marks and scratches and stuff, right? But look at the finish on the guitar. It's just barely has a mark on it. And they're like this for years. They just don't, I mean, they're thin and they're tough as hell, the surf finishes. And they're just really easy to maintain as far as like they're not picky about what you put on for a polish. That's what I found. I'll use the Dunlop or the Dario or just about anything, and it seems like it wipes clean and looks perfect after that. Now lacquer will get gummy and weird, you know, if you use just anything, especially stuff with wax in it. So sorry, I feel like I got out of a swimming pool, like my ear just doing this weird thing. Okay, what else we got here? Let's see. Prince Westerberg is recommending, he says he's got a Blackstar HT5 for recording with old tubes in it, and he says he's an engineer, so he knows his stuff. Sounds good, but the Wampler through an old Fender is mental. You guys are talking amongst yourselves. That's good. I like that. You're a big Sir guy. I've seen the amp demos. I am. He's one of my best friends and oldest pals at this point, and as well as just great gear. Really, really good gear. Okay. Let's see. What else we got here? Looking for other questions. Let's see here. What cabs and speakers would you like to see UA add to the aux? I'd love to see EVs in a Thiel cab and Fanes in a 412. That'd be cool. Fanes. What are they missing right now? I don't know. You know, I feel like they got it pretty well covered. I mean, they got two different greenback cabs. They got some different V30s. I guess what might be neat is to get into the kind of the producer pack sort of ideas, you know, like go in and make some, because they don't have a dedicated IR loader, you got to use their things. It might be cool to, you know, go in the studio with Michael Wagner or Joe Barresi or, you know, one of these, you know, like a producer that's maybe known for guitar tones and things, and make, you know, a UA signature, you know, maybe 2 cabinets with this person, 2 cabinets with that person, some of their friends, you know, and that would be neat. Just variations on, you know, what if they were to hit up a producer and say, what's your favorite old cabinet that you use? Or what's your go-to cabinet for metal? Or for, you know, what's your favorite amp you've got in your studio for whatever, you know, because I'm kind of into this idea of like, when it comes to IRs and modeling and even real amps and stuff, I'm kind of into the idea of like sort of the holy grail sounds of like, you know, if a producer's got a certain amp that is a go-to for theirs for years, that, yeah, I've got this great AC30 in my collection, or because, you know, a lot of these guys have huge amp and guitar and cabinet collections. Somebody like, you know, Bob Rock or Brendan O'Brien, you know, they've got their favorite guitars and amps that you know, the go-tos, you know, that they've collected over the years. And what if you were to go and make IRs of their favorite AC30 or something, you know, you could just make IRs of their speaker and they mic it and get the great perfect sound and all that, and then they put it in the, you know, it's not IRs, I guess, with you know, UA, it would be more like where you can move the mics and do different things. But what if they gave you that, you know, where it was like a bunch of different positions? And actually with UA, it's really only 2 mic positions, isn't it? They'll give you like the 57 and then it's the on axis and off axis. So what if you did that with somebody like Brendan, you know? I think his favorite mics are a 421 and a 57. So what if you just stuck with those and maybe the room mics with, you know, 2 different on and off axis on his favorite cab or something, a couple of them. I think that'd be a neat idea for somebody like UA to pursue. And I think people would buy those the most, you know, more than just random speakers in cabinets just to give you, you know, because if you attach a producer to it, an engineer producer that really knows great guitar tones, people put a lot of stock in that and faith, I think, going, well, this guy dialed in the mic, the position, so I know it's got to be good in a mix because they've done a lot of great records or whatever. So, wouldn't that be neat? I mean, God, imagine if you had, if somebody like Don Landay had done that, or something, here's how I put the mics on Eddie Van Halen's cab or whatever. I mean, it would be like to break the internet. People would go buy those IRs or whatever series of, it would be huge. So to go to the source of some great guitar tones, would be really cool. Okay. Let's see here. What else we got here? Somebody's mentioning, Stealth Parrot is mentioning, Pete will get a credit when you link to Sweetwater via the link in the video description. That's true. If anybody is so inclined, if you need strings or anything, you can hit the link in the description below, and it helps support my channel. I should mention that. I'm a Sweetwater affiliate. Happy to be. They're nice folks out there. And there's a new cab in the ML, Robbie says, there's a new cab in the ML Sound Lab 70s Giants IR pack that has Fanes in it. Phenomenal sounding IRs. That's cool. Yeah, the ML stuff's good. The other ones I like a lot lately are the York IRs. Really, really terrific sounding. So so many great ones out there now. I mean, between Celestion and York and Ownhammer and ML, you've got a lot of different variety in your mic'd up 412s, greenbacks, etc. Hi, Pete. I installed the Wilkinson WLS 130 locking saddles. Do you get any credit for referring us, says Stephen. I don't, but I'm a fan, and Trev Wilkinson's a good guy, and they're good people, so I don't get any credit, but that's okay. That's all right. They make good stuff. What gauge on your acoustics? That's John Hutchison. Generally speaking, I use phosphor bronze strings from Ernie Ball, and I'm using 11s these days on acoustic. Not too heavy. So I got wimpy hands. So, yeah. And 10s or 9s for 12 string. 9 on a 12 string is like an extra light, but it's like 9 through whatever on the low, and you're pushing down 2 strings at a time. So it's actually kind of not that, you know what I'm getting at. So 9s or 10s, not too heavy on 12s. 12 string, or otherwise I just end up, it buggers my hand. Let's see. What else we got here? Some of you guys are recommending car stuff for guitar finishes, which I would imagine would be great for sure on the poly stuff. Carnauba car wax and polish. I just don't know about nitro. Nitro, I stick to the stuff from Stu Mac, because I've had experiences before where I put any old guitar polish on some of my nitro guitars, like my 335, and it just instantly went cloudy and gummy. And then it's hard to get off, It's like, oh, you can't use any old polish on this. I need to be careful. So I got some specific stuff from Stu Mac. Terry Goldstein says he really wants a real Sur 412 cab with greenbacks. Is it worth it for the difference on personal enjoyment versus a 212 G12H75 creamback for the PT100? I don't know, man. I mean, a 412 sounds like nothing else, The creamback loaded cab is also fantastic. It's a little different, but it does sound really big. The dedicated PT100 creamback cab's terrific. But a 412 is nothing like it. You say for personal enjoyment, you're just going to use it at home. But they're kind of, I have 2 or 3 412 cabs here, and I've got one always mic'd in the other room because it sounds like it's the best sounding mic'd cab to me, I do eventually want to get my PT15 cab, which has a V30 and a greenback in it, mic'd in the other room, and just be constantly, I want to have a V30 cab over there that's ready to go too. So but it just means I got to get another 80 feet or whatever of mic cable and go through the hassle of wiring it in here and stuff. And I've got enough mic pre's to do it where I could have, V30 cab ready to go all the time too, and mic'd up and ready to go. So I just got to do it, but one of these days I'll get to For now, it's just my greenback cab mic'd in the other room. Blackbacks, really. That's what I've got. Yeah, but there's nothing like the sound of a 412, good stuff. So do not use car stuff on nitro because it contains silicon, says Rory. That's good advice. Yeah, I think he's just with nitro in general, just be sure you get a specific finish that says good for nitro finishes, from someplace like Stu Mac. I think it's just generally speaking, just have to be careful with old vintage guitars and nitro finishes. They tend to be very soft, especially in like my Telly, for example. That guitar, man, it is soft and gummy, and it'll soak up anything on it. It's just kind of very sensitive to whatever you put on it. It's they dent easy, they chip easy. They're just not real durable, which is part of the look. I mean, it looks really cool, but they're not. It's something that you would want to, you spray something on there and then it turns all hazy all of a sudden. Oh shit, I just destroyed it. That's not good. So, anyways, when is the PT100 amp sim coming out for PC users? I think that's happening at some point. I'm not exactly sure when, but I don't think it's that far in the future. Going to happen pretty soon. So, where it's available, just Brainworks for as a native plugin. I can't tell you exactly when, though. I'm not 100% sure. I should hit them up and ask them. Maybe you can try to get an answer on that. Tell you like next week or something. Yeah. No other questions. So, thoughts on the reimagined Martin acoustics? I hate them to light, sound, and feel cheap. I haven't tried them. Once again, I haven't been to a music store in months because of COVID and stuff, so I haven't tried anything new or didn't go to NAMM this year because I missed it. I was on tour, and then I guess I would have seen them there probably, but I didn't make it this year because I was out on the road. Yeah. Do you have to phase align mics at different distances from your cab? It says Fui Manchu. Yeah. Generally speaking, unless you like the phase cancellation, which is like, can be a part of the sound. If you bring in another microphone and you're like, it's going to do some comb filtering kind of sounding stuff that's, if one's back a foot from the other one or even more, it's going to do some slightly strange things, but it could be cool for like a weird, snarly sounding guitar part or something. So if you want the fullest sound, then you got to phase align them, which you can do using, delay plugins and different things. Just kind of got to use your ears and stuff. Either that or you can go in and actually, after you record the part, you can physically move the track in your DAW. So you got to go in down to the sample level and look where the waveform is going up and down and look on the other mic. And then you physically grab the track and slide it over and experiment with that. See if you can get them locked where they sound more in phase. Can be done that way too. Yeah. Working down to the bottom here. Thoughts on the Soldano SOL30. SLO30. God. I don't have one of those. I have one of these, which is 100. You can see it down there, I think. I tried them both a little while ago, and I decided I would get one of those because it sounded great, the 100 to me, to be honest. And it's like I wanted to have a couple high gain amps in my collection from the kind of the across a plethora of different tones. So that Germino modded is one of the additions I made, as well as the SLO 100. I tried it and I thought it sounded great. And I was like, this is a good sounding. It kind of does this thing, and I would like to have it for that one thing. It's kind of a big. It's not the tightest sounding amp in the world. It's a big fat tone. The sound. Gary Moore to Warren Haynes to different people that have used it over the years. Obviously Van Halen in the early '90s. It's a big fat kind of. I call it big grained distortion. And not the leanest sound in the world, but great big fat single notes and stuff, and it's a really cool sound. It actually has a surprisingly, maybe not surprisingly, but the clean channel is pretty cool too. Even clean, I kind of like it. Because I was always wondering like how Clapton used it, and now I can kind of hear. I think if he was, for lower gain stuff. So I added that. Now I tried the 30, and I thought I'm not saying anything about it other than I just don't think it sounds the same as that one. you know? And I tried that one first, and I was like, I get it. I totally get it. I had an original block logo 5150 back in the day, you know, and I used to have a dual recto and all that in the amps that copied that basically. So I've got a little bit of experience going back 25 years with that sound and stuff. The copies anyway. And then I tried that and I was like, this is cool. I like this. I want to have this color. So I have one. And then I tried the 30 and I just didn't think it was quite the same. So, and I got that one. So that's my feel. So, but for those out, you know, it's a 30 watt instead of it's a different thing. It's like, well, do you get the Marshall DSL 40 or the 100 or whatever, or do you get the, you know, 100 watt? Maybe it's just the difference. You know, different amp. You know, no matter what, if you got different output transformer and different, it's different. So maybe I just bonded with the big sound. So now I've got of course, my PT100, still my main squeeze, and my PT15, which I use for still most of everything that I do. But I've got a couple different flavors now with the old Marshall there and the Germina, which is basically a Jose, and then the Soldano down there. It's a plethora of high gain. And if I suppose I've got right now on loan the Synergy up there too, which I've got things like the Deliverance module for, so if I want more of that different, you know, diesel or one of the ones I quite liked actually for like a real heavy modern thing was the Engel Savage. It's got a different sound than anything else I have, just a different color, you know. I thought that sounded really good. Deliverance is cool too. You know, cool raw rock and roll kind of thing going on. Scott Emmons Music says there are a lot of phase alignment plugins. I've never tried them, to be honest. I've just manually done it myself, but I've never tried, like, I guess maybe there's stuff where you can just kind of, you know, plug in where you can use it to phase line maybe automatically, you know. Which one do you recommend? That's Scott Emmons Music. Is there one in particular that we should check out? I just always, you know, did it myself. What else have we got here? Paul with T-Tops. What pedal for Gary Moore tones? Well, I would say something SLO-ish if you're thinking about that blues thing. You know, I say a big fat high gain. You know, maybe they made a pedal. Maybe you need one of those old Soldano pedals. It was huge. Does anybody remember those? The Soldano Drive? Can't remember what it was called, but it was massive. But yeah. And Scott says you could tweak them. There are several out there. Waves has one called In Phase, but there's a bunch of others. Waves has a lot of cool kind of fixer helper plugins. That could be a good thing, I guess, to check out. Supercharger GTO, that was the pedal. Abracas, I can always rely on you guys. Supercharger GTO. Look at the size of that thing. It's massive. But yeah, for Gary Moore, I mean, you know, especially those 90s tones, he definitely had a thing going on. High gain thing. Hey, where's Ben today? He's always moderating, says Mark. He's right there. Ben said, yo, SD Design. And then right below that, Mark Colburn said, where's Ben today? He's always moderating. He's here. NAM, no 2021 NAM. That's right. That's true. We were talking a little bit about this yesterday, me and my pal, about NAM. I wonder what's going to happen because, you know, for a long time, many companies have been kind of, there's a fair amount out there that are like sort of on the fence all the time about NAM. Like, oh God, like it's a massive hassle. It's a huge expense to go to NAM. But everybody just kind of expected or did it. You know, sometimes people would sit it out in recent years. I think Mesa's not gone. I mean, Sur's certainly not gone in recent years. And, you know, it's a mixed bag, I think. Like they don't spend the money, but then maybe there's not quite the excitement over new products, or maybe you don't have quite the sales that you would if you went, but you do spend. I mean, for those out there that don't know, I mean, an inexpensive NAM booth for one of these bigger companies is 25 grand, you know, and then just think about getting hotel rooms and all your employees, and, you know, the lost days of production and stuff like that, where everybody's out there working and stuff. You know, it's like kind of it's a thing, you know, that you got to commit to. And I don't know if it's a wise thing, anymore for many of these companies. Does it make sense, And the thing is, and I'm sure NAMM is kind of quaking in their boots right now, because it's like, if this January comes by and it's a virtual kind of thing, and a lot of people have a successful time with that, or somewhat successful, that it could affect the show in the future going forward, I would think. I have always really enjoyed it. Ben Coombs says, I love going to NAMM. It's a week in SoCal, versus a week of Canadian winter, which I totally get. And I always have fun there, man. I mean, I have fun. I go and it's overwhelming, but I see all my friends and I love guitar stuff. And so it's a, it's always a good time. But is it really worth it for these companies to go, from their perspective? It's an exciting way, I guess, to release products, and everybody's there all at once and stuff. But, you've got to factor in the cost and the just like everybody's done Zoom meetings and started working remotely and stuff. And now you got companies like Google and stuff saying, well, you can work remotely forever now. You don't even have to come into an office. Got to think about like commercial real estate. There's got to be companies with big offices, and now they got everybody working remotely. Like, what do we need this building for? It's these kinds of things that are going to, there's going to be lasting changes. Some things will go back, but I don't think anything will ever be exactly the same. Somebody was asking earlier how this has affected my YouTube or professional life. Really, it's just meant that this is the only thing that I'm doing, just making music and being in this room and making videos and things. But that's okay, because we're the YouTube guys, things, people that do YouTube even part-time and stuff. It's amazing to have this for us to do, what YouTube has given me is a freedom, actually, to not always have to tour, to not always have to be looking to someone else to hire me to, go on the road for months at a time and that kind of thing. It's given me it's really put me on the map with my own name, I guess, as an individual, both as an artist and as a person that does gear reviews and things like that on the internet, instructor sometime, whatever, somebody that does live streams every Sunday. But it's given me the freedom to do that, as opposed to always having to be like, anybody know about any gigs? Like, because my gig's ending, which is how I spent years, and that has certainly been a lucky place to be in, the fact that I've sort of cultivated it over the years during these times. So it's not lost on me, that's for sure. Chris Quinn is up there in the top chat. He says, name your top 5 Floyd Rose compatible pickups. Compatible. Well, Floyd is just simply F spacing. So you can get pretty much anything. I mean, you can get a Thornbucker. You can get remember the Trembuckers when they came out in the 80s? That was the like blue Saraceno Trembucker. It had like these rail looking pole pieces for each, and that was some of the first F space pickups, I think, that were out there. They called them Trembuckers, and then they just started to make everything in kind of wider spacing. But yeah, I mean, pretty much any Duncan you can get in a 53 millimeter spacing, or 50 for the more traditional. So whatever, pick your poison, My pickup's available in 50 and 53 in both, Thornbucker and Plus versions. I'm sad that my coffee's gone. It's 1:24. I'm going to go pretty soon anyway, because I've been at it for 2 hours now. But I should mention that somebody's asking, would I ever be on Fiverr as a certified pro? I don't think I would do it. I know Britt's gone and done it, and she's done very well with it, but I don't think that I've got too much other stuff that I'm doing right now. So if I needed to, I guess I would. If I didn't have work, it's another way to find, session work, I guess, that people, it's a little bit like you're open to. I've seen some of the sessions she's doing. So it's everybody in the whole world. So, it's like, it's not curated. I'll put it to you that way, but she played on a tune the other day that was really cool. All the way through to really wacky stuff, but let's see here. Oh man, Big Boss says, start a GoFundMe for Pete's 53 Gold Top Fund. No, I would never do that. I would just go and bite the bullet and buy it. If I had the money and it was burning a hole, which it's not, but every now and then there's a little tinge in the back of my mind. If I found one for a good price, would have to be a good price. El Scott Music says you invested in that studio just in time. I mean, it's true. I mean, I had one before this, but it wasn't great actually for the few years before this. But my studio in Santa Monica was just about as cool as this room. It's something that I've put money into for the last 10 years or so. Monthly rent on a studio space. And yeah, I guess it's an investment. That's true. I mean, you're right. Not just like, oh boy, I'm so lucky. It's like, no, I do pay for this every month, and I did work it for 10 years, or more. I've had a space since 2009. I've had a space separate from my home, really. That is a studio for YouTube, essentially. We're doing sessions, but mainly YouTube. What else we got here? SD Design says, Britt makes cool videos. I like her music and her humor. Editing is great. Yeah, she does make really good videos. Terrific videos. I agree. Check her out if you haven't seen it. Brittany Nicole Bowman on YouTube as well as on Instagram. I saw Blue Saraceno for the first time at a music convention, and I met Pete Thorn at a music clinic, says Marty V. Best to not cancel more conventions and clinics. Well, NAMM was a place that everybody went and got sick no matter what. Hence the term NAMthrax. So we don't want to, just can't do it. It's like, can't have conventions. Just won't work right now. It's not going to work. So we got to wait. And then we'll be back next year. Be vaccines and things will get back to some degree of maybe never normal, but sort of normal. So it'll happen. Okay. The new Mac, what? Really? The new Mac Pro, how can that be? Prince Westerberg says the new Mac Pro is $50K. 50? They just announced Apple Silicon, so it'll be a boat anchor in 5 years. So who's buying it? Sorry, Les Paul Goldtop made me think of this as a better investment. Yeah, I would agree. Just stick with a good old iMac. And who needs a $50,000? Is that like a maxed out Mac Pro? Is 50 grand with like some crazy like you can do like, I don't know, quantum computing or something. Brittany's Ghost video was awesome. I don't even know anything about that band. Does anybody out there know Ghost? She knew all about them. I completely missed the boat on that band, but it kind of sounded 80s to me, right? Like, heard the song and I was like, wow. Yeah. Weren't 53 gold tops the ones with the trapeze tailpiece bridge that is next to impossible to palm mute on, says George. That's a 52. By 53, they realized that was of their ways, and they put on a stop bar. So 53s, there are some 53s that probably have the trapeze still, technically, but mostly 53s, 54, 55 were stop bar. And then they went to the Tunematic in 56. And the rest is history. But some people think that the stop bars sound better. Also, the neck angle is different on those ones. Not quite as pronounced. They went to a little more pronounced neck angle after 54, 55. So the Tunemacs have a little bit more, the bridge is a little higher and a little bit less neck angle. And Gil Yaron thinks that they sound different. Matter of fact, one of my Yarons that's here with the Tunematic has the 53 angle with the Tunematic, so the bridge is low to the body, which I really like because I can actually palm mute easier. It's kind of cool, kind of interesting. And he thinks they sound a little sweeter or something with the different neck angle. There you do. There you go. Would you do clinics with masks, says Mark Goldburn? Sure. Everybody sitting 6 feet apart, mask, same info. Put a mic in front of my face. Why the hell not? Masks is a funny thing in the United States. Keep in mind, I've lived in Japan for like a year, basically. It's like everybody wore masks in Japan, especially during allergy season and different times. It's not an uncommon thing. I've lived in cultures, in other words, where it's like very common. So it's not a thing that it's like, oh, finally everybody, and it's, when you look at the, it's simple science, right? I don't want to get into this, actually. We should talk about this. It's political, but it's not. It's really just science, which I don't mind talking about. When you talk about cultures over there that, are mask-wearing cultures, they've had comparatively way fewer problems, and they're really crowded cultures. City like Tokyo, forget about it. Or like, when we talk about the trains and stuff, going to work and stuff, so it's just there. If you're ever looking for any evidence, I mean, they've had recently a bit of an uptick in Tokyo and stuff. And I've recently heard that they're having problems, just kind of like they are in Europe and stuff. It crops up and there's issues. But generally speaking, you know, when you look at Vietnam and how they've done there, it's incredible. You know, the numbers when you consider how crowded these places are. You know, so Ethan's up there in the top chat. He says, "Love the Sir Modern body shape, but not sure about the middle pickup that most of us seem to have. Middle pickup or no pickup?" Oh, it's an interesting question. It's like the Steve Vai guitars. You know, he's always 2 humbuckers with the middle, and then it splits in both positions and goes to the, you know. I quite like the split sound on my signature guitar, which is the 2 inside coils. So, you know, with 2 coils closer together, how different is the sound? I've never actually compared like a hum single hum to a 2 humbucker and then compared the split sound to check the middle. But I use the split 2 coil position on my guitar all the time. So I don't know that I feel a need for a middle single. I guess I don't because I don't have one on my signature guitar. But it's not like I went and compared. Let's try a prototype with a hum single hum. I've just never, I don't even know that I've ever owned a guitar that's hum single hum. I don't think I have one. And I don't think I've ever had one, to be honest. So, yeah. Okay. Yeah, some folks here in Modern Satin HH prefer no middle pickup due to interfering with my picking, says Daryl. Yeah, no middle, says Singles. Thoughts on the Friedman Buxom boost? Cool. Real cool. I believe it's got the tight control on it, right? I think, which is really nice when you're boosting to keep the low end tight. If you're boosting into something that could get flubby. Kind of necessary and cool that pedals have that these days. You know? Thinning out the boost. It's the same thing in a Jose, in that red amp there, like coming out of the first tube stage that he adds into the rest of the amp, which is kind of the stock part of the amp. You know, they got low end, like it's a 0022 cap or whatever on the output of the tube. It's shelving a hell of a lot of low end coming out of that boost. And that's why they sound vicious and tight going into the rest of the amp, you know? So more low end doesn't necessarily mean heavier or whatever. It means you're going to flub up the rest of the preamp as there's more distortion in front of it and stuff. So, you know, that was a cool thing about the Buxom boost. And it's why a Rangemaster is great, because it's only treble, you know. It's boosting the hell out of one specific thing going into an AC30 normal channel, which is big and full anyway. And then you get this great balance. So it's kind of interesting when you think about the lineage of like boosts, like all the way from Rangemaster through to, you know, the 80s when Jose was putting tubes in amps like that. There's a similarity there where it is almost like a mid-range boost. On some of the amps, some of the Jose amps, they actually had a high end shelved off too. So it was very mid-centric, kind of the sound coming out of the first tube into the signal coming out of there into the rest of the amp. So yeah. Okay. Tall person says, talking about that $50,000 Mac. Yes, it's a maxed out system aimed primarily at video producers as such. It's not something an average person would buy. Seems like Mr. Westerberg is throwing smoke. Well, it is something you can probably find on their website for 50 grand though, right? So I don't think he's not incorrect, is he? You know, 14 versus 17 degrees, says Mark Colburn on the neck angle for Les Paul there. What else? King of Tone substitutions, says Benjamin. I'm going to go here in a couple of minutes, guys. But King of Tone substitutions. I think a King of Tone on the hot side is sort of Bluesbreaker based, if I'm not mistaken. On the clean side, I don't know what, but I would say something like a Buxom Boost or a King of Tone substitutions. Maybe like a Timmy is probably not far outside of the, like my little MXR, my new, what did I do with it? Around here somewhere. I love that little pedal. The new little MXR Blue Timmy is a great sounding pedal. It sort of reminds me of the clean side of my King of Tone. You know, that natural kind of Nashville-y organic kind of drive. Yeah. What else we got here? Moving down to the bottom, I'll take a couple more things and I'm going to split. Annihilator is a great Canadian thrash metal band. That's true. I had a couple friends that played in Annihilator. My friend Randy Black was their drummer for a while. Jeff Waters, right? Great guitar player. What would you recommend for gear to start a basic home studio? You need a good set of speakers, nice monitors. You need a decent computer, a good interface, and probably a 57 microphone and maybe a inexpensive condenser. Neve console, says Mark Coburn. Yeah, it's really like a laptop, something, my favorite interfaces are UA or Apogee. Good interface in the mid $500 range you can find from companies like that. A couple of nice speakers. I'm a fan of for the inexpensive, Atom are nice for the inexpensive. The Yamahas are good. They make some nice ones that look kind of throwback to NS10s. I can't remember the name, but they're, a couple $300 a speaker, and I've heard them. They sound pretty good. Look for the Yamahas that are kind of their, sound pretty nice. L. Scott Music says, with all your amps and Synergy, what amp tone can't you get? I can get pretty much anything these days, but there's always things. Like I would love a 115 vibro verb a la Stevie Ray Vaughan. I don't have a JC 120. Fenders are, there's a huge variety there. I don't have a JTM 45. I'd like one at some point. Nice JTM 45 or Bluesbreaker, maybe 1974 style, maybe 18 watt. What else? I can do just about anything else with what I got here, honestly. I mean, I do have a couple Fenders. I've got my Princeton, and then I got a Blackface Bassman. That covers a lot of ground. A Super is pretty special. I did that video on Super Reverbs a while ago. 410 is its own thing. So like a 410 Bassman. I don't have a Tweed. It would be cool to have like a high power and low power Tweed twin, something like that. I want to get an Ombre so that I'll have that brown situation going. Those early 60s Fenders are really unique. I love the tones of Brian Setzer, and there's a lot of Marshall going on there. What we think, they're a little dirtier, and with the presence circuit and all that, and those amps that those guys use. So, whoa, somebody's up there in the top chat coming in at the end. I appreciate that. Peter Evans, thanks, man. For a cold drink, he says, thank you for a great Sunday. Thanks, man. Hey, you're too kind. Thanks for doing the top chat, super duper chat situation. I appreciate that. Good guys, you guys. Let's see. Preston Smith says, trade my 50, or who was it? Stealth Parrot said to Preston Smith, trade my 50K Mac Pro for a Dumble. No kidding, right? I think I'd rather have the Dumble. And if I'll get the cheap Mac and get a Dumble. I think. By the way, if anybody wants a Mac for video editing, a couple things. I'll just wrap up here. A couple things I got this week that are okay. A couple more questions. Danny says, what do you do about gigs where maybe a wireless kit would be useful, but considering may sap your tone? The only time a wireless will sap your tone these days is if you're running a fuzz that's something like a fuzz face, and you don't want to put a buffer in front. So I don't worry about wireless sapping my tone anymore. The wirelesses are so good now, the digital wirelesses, that they basically sound probably almost better than a cable in many ways. So this said, I used a cable on my last tour. I was it was a little more limited crew and stuff like that on the last tour, and wireless was just one more thing I kind of didn't want to deal with, I felt like, and so I didn't use one, and went with the cord. I kind of regretted it. I did end up getting caught up on a lot of things. The next time around, I would probably use a wireless, come to think of it, because of the lighting on the tour. There was they put these par cans on the stage, and I would constantly get my cable wrapped around, and it drove me crazy. But it would piss me off. So probably wireless next time, except for songs where I need the fuzz. But yeah, I would just use a cable, honestly, answer to that. Bill says, I miss the days of the Tascam Porta 1, pan left, pan right, hit record, done. Dude, I got a video for you. It's coming out on Tuesday. So check out my video of this new Tascam interface and mixer that I just did. And it's also a recorder, and it's very Porta Studio looking. It's called the Model 12. It's out now. You can see it. But first video that I did for Guitar World this week. This is interesting. This week's That Pedal Show episode, pick gear for each other out of their comfort zone, and each wrote a track, says Jim. When I used to work for Linda Perry a lot, my first instinct was to bring in my pedal board, and I would still do that sometimes throughout my tenure working for her. But the reality was she had this massive collection of effects and amps and guitars. And I kind of she liked to pick things. She's the producer, and she liked to kind of make decisions and stuff. And sometimes she'd let me do whatever I wanted. But sometimes she was like, why don't you go get the Telly and the AC-15 and pick one pedal and come up with the sound for this song? And she would dictate. Get the Fender 12-string. You know, she had this beautiful Fender 60s 12-string. Get the Fender 12-string and the little Super amp and come up with something for the verse or whatever. And I liked that. Like somebody else giving me a framework to work within and going, okay, I'll make music with this now, which has kind of maybe helped me get out of my, like, all guitars need to feel and play perfect and sound very familiar and the same, and got me into being able to use different things to, maybe it helped set me up for doing the YouTube thing, really, because plugging in a pedal and let's see what this thing sounds like and let's make some music with it. Oh, it kind of inspires this sort of part. So I'll give Linda some credit for that. It was helpful. Just to wrap up, I was going to say, if anybody out there does video or this kind of stuff, I picked up one of these on Amazon this week. This thing is rad. It's super light. It's not the most robust thing. It's a little on the flimsy side, but this is mainly for iPhone. It's got an iPhone clip in the top, and you can angle it, use it, you know, any which way that you want. If you're doing YouTube, how do I angle it? There's a way to angle it. I feel like I'm going to break it. Oh, I see. I have to loosen this. Right, and then you can do the iPhone up and down, right? Or you can take this off, and then it's just got a standard tripod mount on it. So you can mount a camera on it. And for like the desktop or something, I'm able to use this and get different angles. It's so tiny, you can fit it in a suitcase, and it actually extends like quite far. It's not the most robust. I mean, it's a little flimsy, but I'm digging this thing. And it was 24 bucks. It was on Amazon, so got it. It's cool. It's allowing me to do things. Oh, and it comes with a remote for your phone. So I'm using this for thumbnails. I can set up my phone and then take a thumbnail for the video. So if anybody out there does YouTube, or you just need something like this for their phone, it's pretty damn cool. You'll find the one that looks, if you look up iPhone tripod on Amazon, this is one of the first things that'll pop up. And the other thing I was going to recommend is you don't have to spend $50,000 on a Mac, but I would recommend if anybody's getting a computer to do this kind of stuff and they want to do Final Cut or any kind of video editing, spring for the upgrade video card, because my computer has that. You kind of need it to do any kind of video stuff. So that's one thing. A lot of people ask me about I've got an iMac that's like late 2015. It's a number of years old now. It's fast. It's great. I don't think the processors have changed much over the last few years, maybe a little, but it's super quick. It's an i7 4 gig processor, whatever, multi-core, blah, 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 with a fast video card and an SSD drive. I like it. Jonathan just sent me a super sticker. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. I do. All righty. I think it's time to split. Last thing I'll say, I've got a cool guest lined up. Not for next week. It's going to be a while down. It's going to be 6 weeks out or something like that. But I've got a cool guest that I won't tell you until a little bit down the road. And then I'll do some promo for it. It's very exciting, though, that he's going to do my show. He's a big rock star. So keep watching, and you'll find out more. Look at that. Secret Story sent me $10. Dude, you guys are too kind doing the top chat situation. Thank you. I do appreciate it. I do. Thanks so much for you guys for supporting. Once again, I'll just say one more time, there's a Sweetwater link if anybody cares to click on it, if you need strings or picks or something, or a guitar cable. If you go there, if you're so inclined, it does help support the channel. I really appreciate it through all these times. John says, thanks, Pete. Have a great rest of your weekend. And I agree. I hope all you guys have a great weekend. Ben Coombs, of course, will have his show tonight. He's my faithful moderator. Check out Ben's show. And appreciate you being here, Ben. Thank you so much. And you guys are the best. I'll see you next time. Have a great week. Over and out.